Senor, how are you? Happy New Year. You too. How you doing? How are you doing?
So here. That's the main thing.
So it's good news.
That's the way it is, man. That's the way it is.
Is that a vest? No,
Well-
it's just a jacket.
Yeah,
Okay, it just looks like a vest, doesn't it, a little bit, because you have that, it's a different sleeve though,
Yeah.
right? Okay, I like it.
Send you an email for later.
Should be joining us. We saw it later. New York City DOT will not be joining us this meeting. By the way, that was on vacation. Because they're there.
I sent you the update
Mhm.
kind of where we are.
Of
They
where we
came
are.
back, but he isn't coming back.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
late this month. So,
Maybe we can talk a little bit after.
yeah,
Does that work?
we have to talk.
You're at previous.
I reached out to DOT's office and they're
You're.
short staffed, but they're finding someone to work with us interim. But
Interim until,
until he gets back, getting back sometime late January. Won't be here.
Right.
what? Oh, for some reason I thought it said, interesting. I
That's
thought,
what I was-
no, I'm just curious now, and Dennis, just, let's see. I have two different emails, one for CB12 and then one for personal. I think I may have done it on my personal, so I'm just
They don't
curious
care
what
that.
his,
Yeah,
his, auto message said, because I thought it said it was coming back.
Because do they want to connect the east
I
side,
was told-
west side?
Yeah, no, let me just, I'm just curious, I mean,
No, I reached out to him, I saw him about 2 weeks ago. We'll discuss more on some updates, but we had to walk through some skirt on. at that stretch on Wadsworth Avenue.
I saw some through.
It was last minute. They called me from one hour to the other. And I just,
I grew up, a block away from you.
oh yeah? So
You know where that building is on St. Nicholas?
St. Nicholas, they're talking about,
It used
yeah.
to be ordinary buildings. And
Oh, yeah?
Before they built the highway.
Before they go, oh.
that's where I live.
So you saw it before it became a highway, before they,
Yeah,
State people
real-
told me what's going on.
And it's like under 178, they're
There was
actually
a contract that was.
Yeah,
very
tell me.
much
They used to be
state
tough.
deal.
oh, they used to be talking.
Yes.
City
Oh,
parks.
wow.
as
Before they
state
built
deal.
that big.
Connecting from the bridge from Jersey, still. they got the
Right,
next
they
one.
went one way and
Yeah, well, yeah.
We didn't have a roster
Yeah, that's interesting.
contractor.
This big thing has much more lane.
Yeah, yeah.
State.
Well, There's certain things that we, we'll discuss. And I won't be here to answer that.
Just so you know, his automatic
What's
refund
tomorrow?
reply is that he'll be back
I'm
on
really.
I'm gonna reach out to him.
January 7th.
After he, when I saw him in person,
He'll be out of the office through January 7th, so I guess that means.
it should be. All right. No, that's better news than that.
So.
Well, maybe it
Both
didn't
of
get
you
updated.
know when
But he may have extended.
somebody
I hope not.
needs the information, when they don't.
I'm being
Well,
bombarded with emails. I have no
I
answers.
yesterday, and so they gave,
All right,
so.
I guess we can start. We don't have quorum. We're waiting on Bruce. I know Bruce, Bruce will be easy. But if we have a resolution item, which I think we just might have one and it's more support, we'll table it till we have quorum. All right, so. Right, so we'll start. Just to advance the meeting. My name is Leo Jimenez. I chair traffic and transportation, and as we collectively like to put it, with a committee of action and advocacy. Now let the rest of the members introduce themselves. Mr. Jim Burnett, parliamentarian.
I'm Jim Berman, like the statute. I've been on the board a long time, you may be able to infer that. I'm also the board parliamentarian. Way back when I was actually the board chair.
Well, all types of hats.
Jody Hurton. I've been here for about a year and a half and
The best.
sit on health and the environment as well.
He's the best, very proactive. No, Robin.
Robin Cruz, I've been here for a couple of years. Also, I'm part of the licensing committee.
Right, we have a few more members are sick, so. Hopefully they get better. Carmen should be in the next 20 minutes or so. She wraps up her other meeting. And then Bruce will be here today. We discussed that earlier. All right, so we have some updates, lots of updates actually. But just to advance the agenda, we have Alberto Roldan from MTA. Alberto's great. Met up with him over the holidays to discuss certain issues. He also attended the walkthrough with some spirit on and gave great insight on MTA's standpoint. So, Alberto, what's going on, man?
Yeah, how you doing?
We're well.
Happy New Year, everyone. Great to be here again. See all of you familiar faces.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you said, we had a good, I think a productive walkthrough with Sing Spirit on, was it 3 weeks ago or so?
Yeah.
I think a lot of follow-up with DOT in terms of the signage request in front of the church. We did see some issues with improper parking from our employees that has been followed up on and have been dealt with. So-
Yeah, no,
so that-
Alberto, if you could just remind, I know committee members weren't attending, or the public attendees, but it's the ACE program is here to stay. I know that during that meeting was discussed that it's not a pilot program, it's regulation at this point, and you know, MTA will look into possibly maybe adjusting the time, I guess, that it takes from the pictures it takes when they send these tickets out, but that's just something that's being discussed. It's still what it is, right?
Right. So thanks for that. So ACE, as we've discussed in the meeting, but a quick refresher. ACE is an expansion of the ABLE program. Many folks may be aware of the bus lane enforcement. This was an expansion to cover items such as blocking the bus stops, double parking, to essentially make the buses run faster. In this case with the church, many folks are getting tickets from our ACE cameras that were equipped with this program. And I think it was more clarity about what can they do, can we adjust the program, etc. The cameras are automated, right? So the driver doesn't give the pictures, and the main thing is you have to the two buses have to see the car, in this case double parked, within a certain amount of time to get the ticket. Once the photo is taken, it's processed by DOT, who reviews the picture for being a legitimate photo, a legitimate violation, and it gets sent out. The car operator does have an option to appeal the ticket if they feel it's wrong. DOF does provide avenues to appeal that ticket. We do have a piece of collateral I can share with Leo after the meeting. We can distribute to committee members that describes more what the program is, in terms of the fines, but also how to remedy the violation should you feel it was an error.
Awesome. So this is a reference. St. Spiridon, Greek Orthodox Church came to us in November. That they were getting bombarded with tickets from the MTA buses. As you guys know, in Wadsworth, between 180 for 179, it's a very small block. It's two-way. It has parking as well. And oftentimes when parishioners, they also share the building or the lease building to a school, a charter school. Whenever parents were dropping off students or parishioners were trying to unload to go into the church, buses would come and snap the picture. So Alberta recommended, and we had a walkthrough, and we determined that even though MTA cannot do anything, because there is regulation, state regulation at that DOT would consider some type of resolution, some type of solution. We came up collectively with St. Spiridon's input. Council member De La Rosa's representative, Jamila Sandoval, joined us as well. Alberto Rodon is a team in MTA, and our solution is that we want to help parishioners. I know that they've lost a lot of attendance because of this. They're losing a lot of money as well. We want to allow them with DOTs. Obviously, we would have to discuss. We would have to give support for that, but probably provide them the whole block of no standing, no parking, so that they can use for drop off for their parishioners to unload. That would remove about 3 parking spaces. So DOT is on board, MTA is on board, as long as we have a discussion. We write a letter of support. Yeah.
What do you mean the whole block?
So right now,
179, 180?
yeah, between 171 and 180 on the Wadsworth.
Wadsworth.
On the west bound side, on the west side, it's right now there's no standing from the corner to I want to say in front of the school because of the school, and then beyond it, in front of the church, there's no standing, no parking, allowing 2 or 3 spots for the priest, their reverend, and then after that, the block really has about 3 parking spaces allowed to the public.
Yeah, I
We
think the
didn't
fire hydrant there makes it more difficult.
Yeah, there's also fire hydrants, so
Yeah, but
that creates kind of
the parents gonna complain when come to drop the kids.
so ideally, and in a perfect world, if law enforcement were to be a bit more proactive in that area, that wouldn't be an issue. So it's a lot of. It's not as easy. This is a start. So if we technically with us, if DOT removes those 3 spots, we'll have no standing or parking on the school days and their signs. They would allow for parents to come in and just drop off.
Okay.
As Lyle explained it when we were there, close to the school, that no standing is not meant for teacher parking, it's just meant for unloading.
I understand.
Buses to come in, unload the students off and keep it going. So ideally, we would want to give the church and the school the block,
Well,
costing about 3 parking spots.
honestly, it can work because what happened is when
Second
people
park.
are parking in there, they double park there.
A lot of double. parking.
So it's crazy. Meanwhile, if we don't have no parkings anytime, parents can come and drop and go. Drop
Yeah.
and go.
Yeah, ideally,
So
that
it can
would be the solution.
better
Again,
solution.
partial because we still need law enforcement to do their part. And people will still park, you know how this neighborhood anywhere, they'll come and as long as nobody's ticketing, nobody cares, they'll leave it there. Point is that if we have these signs in effect and you have NYPD, we can poke the bear and say, hey, take a look at this area for safety reason. And if they start ticketing, people are less likely to park overnight or park during school hours or during church hours, etc. Once, like, I'm opening up to the committee to discuss first. They, MTA and DOT, well, DOT mostly needs our letter of support. We're talking about St. Spiridon. And, the issues with the ACE program, we had a walkthrough this, 2-3 weeks ago with MTA, DOT, St. Spiridon, the council member's office. And ACE program is here to stay, it's New York State regulation. They're not gonna change the routes, they're not gonna remove from the bus. It's helped in the short amount, I think it was implemented in the summer, late summer, it's helped with congestion, traffic congestion. And I'm sure MTA will, in the near future, come out with some type of report to show a study, but it has helped tenfold. So they're not gonna remove that program. Since Spiridon is still upset, they're losing a lot of money, a lot of their attendees. So we were trying to figure out a solution, and collectively, the solution and the only plausible solution is to allow the full block between 179 and 178 on Wadsworth, the west side, to remove parking, just have the no standing no parking. It will essentially be taking away 3 parkings from that area. Again, parking, even one parking spot is crucial, but we're trying to just find a happy medium on all sides. So.
But, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me have Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
Age before beauty.
I'm sorry, my apologies, sir.
Thank you.
You are.
3 things. Let's start with, I'll go back to the map. I have no problem with making that, no standing in that, people can drop people off. Now, that should only be when the school is open and when the church has service. So that at night, the public should be able to park there.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make this all day and all night, because nobody goes to work. Maybe some people should go to church at 3 o'clock in the morning, but there can be do. So there's that. The second thing is, as I'm repeating what people said, but it needs repeating, but it's important. There has to be enforcement. Enforcement is done by the police department, and that means we should get our public safety committee involved too. And the other thing, which is sort of, there's actually been this game going on from the beginning of time. There's just no standing in front of the church. But what it really is parking for the priests.
Yeah.
And they cannot have that either. Because if the bus takes a picture of their car, unless they have really bright halo around it so the bus can't see, they are violating the law. And, so, and again, this has been, and I've been around for a while, this has been a scam going on since the beginning of the time. It's never been, that they claim it's, so the disabled people can go in and out before they even cared about disabled people. It's always been priest parking, rabbi parking, probably imam parking, and anyone else's parking. And that's, yes, it's important that these holy important people have parking spaces, but this is not.
So wait a minute, didn't you say that there is, parking?
Three parking spaces.
So there's 3 total parking spaces towards 180th Street. If you go to 179th on the southwest corner, you'll see that it's no standing during school hours, 7 to 4. And that's meant for the buses to come and unload with students, children, and keep it going. When we walked there, Alberto can attest to it. There were school faculty was parked. They had some deal wasn't even. It was like makeshift placards. So we asked the church to speak to the faculty to not park there. But again, it's really an enforcement issue. We could tell people not to park, they're gonna park.
And didn't you say that there was a specific parking space for the priests of the
For the
church?
church, yeah, it's about 2 spaces.
Two
Except-
spaces.
Wait, but it's not a parking space. It says no
No
standing
standing,
and they
exactly.
park there.
Yeah, correct. So what allow us to into
De
it,
facto parking.
yeah, what allowed
And
us,
that's always what it's been, but that's not what the sign says.
yeah, what allowed us to is in the past, years ago, there was actual signage that allow the police to park there.
I don't recall that.
So
You know,
last
they
year.
tell me nice stories.
Yeah, and then, years after, they just made it no standing. But the DOT, if the police applies per church, they give you one placard that allows you. So if law enforcement comes, they won't give a ticket to that one placard. For whoever is the priest or whoever it is that's head of that church. So they have their priest, but sometimes he says it's so bad, people don't care to follow rules because there's no enforcement. People park there, he has to go park. He gets tickets. So essentially, this will remove 3 parking spots. I agree, maybe we should cap it at the hours, schools during their school hours and the church during their busy hours, just to not create any backlash from the community. Yeah, there's only 3 parking. It as Alberto mentioned, creates a bit of an issue because of how the street is formed. There's a hydrant about 3/4 of the block down close to 180th Street. So it's really 2 spots and a half, but we'll say 3 parking spots. Now, Alberto, if you want to give any input, man, I might be missing something.
No, that's an accurate summary. I mean, we looked at all the angles of what we can do. Like you said, it's up to DOT to really consider expanding that no standing to that rest of that block. But I think the hour restrictions and all that could be worthwhile looking at. I know there are churches in Harlem that say no standing Monday through Friday except Sunday. So that's, I've seen that sign. It's worth looking at.
Thank you. Let me have some of the, unless you guys have any more comments. Let me have some of the public attendees and input.
As a resident of this CB 12, no parking is just an invitation for anyone to illegally park. If you really want it, it's gotta be no standing. That's all I have to say.
We have to,
Because I have special plates and I park illegally all the time, and I see all the other people illegally parking. And it's so easy to
everybody
do.
does that.
And so if they really, no, the idea is brilliant, clear the whole space. And whether you can leave overnight parking, which would be great, I don't know, but it just, if people know when the sign says no standing anytime, they will not park there.
Yeah,
Because
we
you're subject
will,
to ticket in tow, it's $135 instead of $65.
we'll take Jim's recommendation. I think we have to have another joint meeting with public safety. And hopefully have traffic enforcement agents come to our meetings. I've tried, I've nagged. Unfortunately, they just don't have the staff, so they don't really have a dedicated traffic enforcement agent up here. But we're gonna keep following. I think enforcement is really the main piece. Enforcement did their job effectively. We wouldn't have too much of an issue with it area. Because again, nobody would be able to stand there until everybody would be.
Housekeeping comment, if people in the public could introduce themselves, you're not
But
required
the
to.
gentleman's
If you tell us your Brad Kendall. But again, you're not required to, and you're aware that this meeting is broadcast and recorded.
Yeah, it's good for the minutes.
My name is Fred. Silva.
Yeah, Alberto, we couldn't hear you. You sounded muffled.
Oh no, like the gentleman said about the no standing, those signs have helped us along 9th Avenue for another issue. Folks do
Discuss
not
that a
park
little
there.
bit.
Yeah. So to his point, that is effective. It has proven effective. So it could be worth considering as well.
Lego? Yeah.
Hi, Dr. Allegra Legrand. So the school that's next door is School in the Square. Their pre-K actually opened up across the street from me. That happens to be their middle school. Middle school students are issued Omni cards, so the number of kids that you expect to be dropped off is actually pretty small. I do suspect for that reason that is why it's being used eventually to staff parking. And then I would like to add that if enforcement, if you're relying on what we've already mentioned is severely understaffed traffic enforcement agents, that means you need to change street design. And I would suggest that we enforce at least the corners with boulders, because I can tell you that between Golden Square Charter School as well as Amber Charter School across the street from me, parking chaos at drop off and pickup time, even though those are younger kids, but the older kids can be totally chaotic. And if you have a mobility problem, the parents feel entitled to block you when you try to cross the street. I took some pictures today on my way to physical therapy of the cars that I had to dodge in the crosswalk. And so I would say that enforcement agents are great, but street design is even better. So if you intend that parking space for the priest, get permission from DOT to lay out a big old cross painting on the street. And everything else is intended to increase visibility so that students can have drop off and so the students don't get hit by triple parked cars and buses. We need to enforce that with things in the street, boulders at the corners, perhaps
Daylighting.
armadillos, like, but not just boulders in the corner, but you can also put things like armadillos on places that you're not supposed to park, to put them like crosshatch, so that people know you're not supposed to park there. Emergency could get over there. If you were driving slow, you could go over there, but it would be a very clear indication. So the less we rely on traffic enforcement agents to do the things on our streets properly, that is an improvement. We actually don't want to issue people tickets. We want them to adhere to the law. Good street design can make it easier to adhere to the law, and that's what we should be seeking out.
So,
Of the charter school parents,
Sure.
me and my walker.
so I think we're gonna go with the recommendation that if we are gonna show that, we can pass.
You're all set.
If, yeah. I think that,
That's-
DOT just needs a letter of support. They don't need a resolution for this.
No, we do, everything has to be written
Or it has to be a resolution.
from our end, so that we. But there's always the entire community that's speaking about. And since I'm already talking, anyone not aware of it, the Greenway north of 181st Street has been opened.
Yeah, we're gonna discuss
Anyone
that.
else
too.
want to take a look?
We're gonna discuss that. All right, so,
All right, no problem.
do you think we should have more
I
dialogue
thought,
on this? Maybe another walkthrough with DOT, just, the possibility of this? Again, they just need our letter of support. If we're all on board, all in favor of, removing those 3 parking spots and making it no standing, right? Yeah, no standing. Instead of no parking, no standing.
Right, but remember. we
Do you wanna
have to get a
include-
resolution.
And yeah, do you want to include the hours under no standing? So
I think we.
I think it was, it's a good idea.
The DOT should do their best to make the parking spaces available during the time. of restrictions.
The public has some questions.
let me take the vote of the committee first and then we'll do a public vote. So everybody in favor? And then from a public attendance, everybody in favor or anybody against it?
I just have a question, I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, what's your,
I was wondering, if that would, I mean, I don't have it ready, but would it make a difference what the sign says? My name is Gabriel Sagan. And I was just wondering, does it make a difference? Because for me, in the perspective, like a biker goes around, like, it doesn't matter what the sign says, like, they can say it's a death penalty, people would just park anywhere, so I'm just wondering, like, do people actually read the signs? But I don't know, I just see it as people just park anywhere.
go ahead.
To be honest with you, a lot of drivers, they don't care. They just park because they're desperate.
Yeah.
They don't care if they get a ticket. If they don't get a ticket, they're lucky. Because I see so many people spending 1 hour, 2 hours looking for parking.
Yeah.
No questions.
Yeah.
It's like, out of at nighttime, you want to go home.
Yeah.
And you don't find a spot, especially now with, it's gonna be crazy now with,
Congestion price.
congestion
We're
price.
gonna talk about that.
A lot of people's gonna come all the way to Washington Heights to park, and then they're gonna take the train.
Yeah, the reality is, man, if enforcement doesn't do anything, if I park my car in a specific area daily, even if it's illegal and I'm not getting a ticket, chances are I'm gonna keep parking there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
on your own risk.
Far,
That's why blocks are important.
yeah.
But everything I said is true.
Yeah, big stone blocks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, okay, no, okay.
that's your own decision. That's your own, your own risk.
Yeah.
If you get up in the morning, you go see your car, you got a ticket. Or the car's not there, you gotta pay $165,
So you,
plus you gotta pay over that 340 when you won't get it.
Brandon, yes. We discussed that with the church as well. Their response, Brandon Touch, I'm sorry. A man had a question, statement, I guess. He asked us to let the church know that they should not have valet parking, park the cars on the sidewalk. When we had the walkthrough, the church did mention it. We asked them why. Again, we're not enforcement, so we recommended that they shouldn't, for safety reasons. But their response was that the reason they do is because they have nowhere to park, they have nowhere to unload. So we told them that we don't recommend it, and that if we were to push for law enforcement to come, all these people will be ticketed, and they understood that as well.
One more comment,
Yes,
is that, that a lot of these charter schools, when they come up with renewal, the community boards can report on whether they are being good community members. So the faculty inappropriately privatizing the publicly marked drop-off zone space. That would be something to mention at the charter renewals, and I think that this community board should write as a matter of course, either we have had complaints about misappropriation of space, or that this is a school in good standing with our community.
recommendation, was we took out there, but I don't know if we have it. Maybe Jim could.
No, but I want to comment on this parking on the sidewalk. There should be no excuse for parking on the sidewalk,
100%.
period. And that's true of churches, it's true of establishments. like-
Anybody, it's illegal.
Right,
It's just a huge safety issue.
right, so
I agree.
we cannot sanction.
No. Trust me, I have no, we at the meeting,
I'm gonna.
They mentioned-
So,
yes,
my name is Peter Reeves, just to talk, because we're talking about cars on the sidewalk. Last meeting I mentioned during ASP consistently, cars go directly onto the sidewalk to dodge the street sweeper.
we're gonna speak of that,
And
actually.
also the firefighters on, Vermalea
Mhm.
park directly on the sidewalk behind a school.
Well, with the
So
fire
just that,
department and law
it's a massive
enforcement,
problem.
it's a very weird line.
Yeah, I
The
know.
city actually grants them, right, so it's very. But I wrote to DOT and the community board office. They mentioned that district service cabinet, so sanitation and DOT would be going out to do the inspection of that area. For what we discussed last month. Jamila Sandoval is online, she's from Carmen de la Rosa's office. Jamila, if you wanna give any feedback or of that walkthrough, feel free to do so. And then we'll move on with the agenda. We have a pretty lengthy agenda, so. I don't wanna be here to touch.
Hi, good evening. Just jumped on, so I'm not sure which walkthrough you're referring to. Are we talking about the church?
Yeah, we'll say swear now.
Yeah, it was very informative. We were able to have MTA, DOT, and obviously Leo on site to discuss the possibility there. We have to wait for obviously DOT to come back with some type of plan to see how we can assist that church and their many parking violations that they receive in that area. We also are being cautious of the fact that buses go through that street, through Wadsworth, and it's a lot of traffic, and sometimes mayhem in the area, and that there's a school. So there's a lot of things to consider, but I'm looking forward to hear what DOT has to say about the area and many more other areas.
DOT, so just remind everyone, DOT is not online today, Lyle is not in office. These dialogues, these conversations continue happening in the back end. So we go on, involve more of the committee members, and I think it's good that we're all on the same page with these things, but Lyle's not. So a lot of our questions, I'm writing them down to forward to Lyle so that when he gets back, he can address them. All right, so we'll move on. We have Alberto, so we have a few things. Alberto, before we go into the request of the MTA has in 9th Avenue, et cetera, a former board member, Marty Collins, wrote to us. He has a couple questions, and I think I forwarded to you the answers, but I'll read the questions aloud. So the first one is, when will the 177th Street and 4 Washington Avenue elevator reopen? I'm assuming it's the A train station. On 175th Street, 175th Street, 8 train station. The location 177th on the.
Right, it's the one they named after Edith Brennan.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So when would that reopen? If the sign on the sidewalk shed indicates that the work should have been completed last month, early December. And the other question is, when will the sidewalk and subway grate be fixed and the work site cleared on the northeast corner of Amelia Avenue and West 207th Street?
Great, happy to answer those questions and thank you for sending those over earlier today. So 175th Street, the signage is being updated for Q1 completion. So this quarter, we're looking to complete that elevator. I have some pictures I can forward to you later. It's looking good. The elevator is installed, doing last minute items there to get it ready for testing. So we look forward to Q1 of this year. The other request, the vent over on 207, we've put a barrier around it to protect the public from getting injured and walking on that vent. I'm sorry?
So we lost you at the beginning of
the vent on 207. We've barricaded the 207th Street vent. Can you hear me now?
Sort of.
It's in and out.
Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, so the 207th Street vent has been barricaded and is looking to is awaiting funding for repair. So as you know, the new capital plan is being voted on and funded hopefully soon, and we can add this to the package of vents across the city for repair.
All right.
So once that gets established in that package, I'll definitely let the community board know.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody keep us updated about that. All right, so MTA also has a few requests for us, and sorry, public, this is gonna stay only with the committee since we have to discuss this and pass a resolution. So the first request, and Alberto, you can chime in at any time because you probably can explain a lot better than I can. But you know, around 9th Avenue between 218th, so about 220th Street. Bus depot is back there. The Kingsbridge Bus Depot, I believe it's called. It's back there. There's also a charter school. The Data Charter School is there as well. There's a lot of congestion, traffic with school personnel, students, employees in the bus depot, etc. While they're having repairs done, and they came to us a little while ago about the Kingsbridge roof repairs. While they're having these repairs done, MTA is requesting that we support DOT installing no parking, no standing signs along 9th Avenue between 219th and 220th Street. So there's already existing no standing, no parking, 218th to 219th. They're asking us to write a letter of support so that we can extend it all the way to 220th Street, removing those parkings. But it was just allowed because the bus depot is 24-hour operation. And there's a lot of craziness and madness because of the school there. And the school, again, it has not been a good neighbor. They haven't been the best neighbor from our gathering. Alberto, if you want to add to that.
No, that's 100% true. We're starting a roof replacement at the depot. So right now are being stored in the lot over between 219 and 220th. So we need 24/7 access to that lot for our own operations. So that would greatly assist us in our safely operating our buses. But also with Zeta, we're hoping that with this improved traffic pattern, street use, we can have less likelihood of potential accidents. Because the main thing with Zeta is we're worried about safety. Like there is a cost to us in terms of overtime at the depot. But our main concern is the safety of children, the safety of people in the neighborhood. And we're hoping that we can, with this adjustment, safely operate the buses without incident.
The first request. Do you guys want to hear the second request or do you want to discuss the first request? Yes, temporary. Okay, do repair.
The sanitation trucks that park there, is it still 3 different community boards instead of just community board 12 that parks back there?
I
But
think-
that has been my observation.
Yeah, I think it's
I've
still,
gotten back there.
it's
Not-
still, they had one in Harlem, I think it was. One of the, I guess, sanitation depots, they were under repair, so a lot of their trucks and other trucks were being sent to the one in CB12. I don't know if the third one's still, I know that the Harlem one's still working out. So if you go around the area, you see some trucks you won't see District 12, you'll see, I think it's District 9 or something like that, District 8. So that's, but it is temporary, it would be a temporary ask. If things go accordingly and it creates less traffic jams, then it might be something DOT considers along. Again, this is, I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this is for a study. So it's not necessarily to change the signs right away, it's for DOT to look into a study and then potentially implementing so that they're able to do their work seamlessly. MTA with the repairs.
The other thing, that is the location of the big new public housing project
On the block, yeah,
right there, the lot that is on 9th Avenue and River,
going there.
What?
just kind of corner from there.
How long is it gonna take the study?
Well, and how long will the repair take, Alberto? Do you know for that project?
That has to be awarded, but it should be a few months. But it has to be awarded. So once that gets awarded, we'll come back to your committee and discuss the project itself in terms of more so in terms of street level disruptions and all of that.
Let me have Jamila. Jamila knows about that area because she gets complained quite often. Jamila, do you have any input on this council members? Council members' office have any input?
On the Zeta situation, I have a lot personal, but I'm gonna speak professionally. I would say professionally, the council member obviously does not want to ticket parents and enforce so much on them, but we also understand the situation with MTA and how bad that traffic is in that area. Like I've said before in other meetings and also to MTA, is that the council member had a child that used to go to school right there before 378 moved and got their brand new building. And she was also always stuck in traffic when she was dropping off and picking up her child. And that's because she saw the lack of coordination between Zeta and their team. It's different if I'm sure they have tried to have some type of plan, but we're not seeing any changes, and we're not seeing any change of behavior from the parents. So something has to happen to see if they can now start taking us seriously. What we do know is that many of those parents come outside of the district, which is why they drive in. But we also have to understand that we cannot continue having bus delays, whether it's our buses, the 100, the 7, the 3s, all of that. It's other buses outside of our district that are also being delayed because someone is not coordinating correctly. And sorry, the last thing, semi-personal, semi-professional, is that when we had a meeting with the CEO, she blatantly lied and said that there is no issues in that area and said that they have never had complaints, that MTA has never come to her, and that DOT has never come to her. So she's already being saying certain things that we know are untrue. And then when the council member stated that she has a child that goes down the street and she has seen it, she had no response after. So to us, it was, I don't know how that trickles down to her staff that are on the field, but her as a CEO was already not trying to be collaborative and trying to find a solution when we were coming to her before we allowed NYPD to do their job, kind of thing. So that's my take on it.
Yeah, MTA is concerned. So when MTA process Alberto, the buses coming out of the depot are delayed about 15 to 20 minutes per because of parents dropping off their kids in double park, sometimes triple park. It's actually pretty dangerous. I drove myself around there because I wanted to see, and I was stuck within 2 blocks for about 20 minutes.
And because of the late pullouts, and because of the late pullouts, it's costing us about $900,000 in overtime a year. So it's not cheap.
That hurts our pocket because of congestion pricing, right, Alberto?
It hurts your pocket regardless. I think it's important.
Yeah, no.
You know.
Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you. Several things. Number one, say the same thing I said with the previous project. They're not gonna do the roof construction at night, so they should consider making the parking available at night.
Well,
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
so there's that. The other thing, and I think, you know, it's time for the councilman and probably the local police commander and someone of authority at the MTA, the bus depot, to let the school understand that these are our streets and not their streets. And if it's these recalcitrant parents, then You know, there are mechanisms where people will learn to follow the laws. If they get big tickets, if they get their cars towed away. And the reason I'm being so adamant is at some point, someone's gonna be a dope. And some kid is gonna get run over and everyone's gonna be real sorry. The idea is to prevent that. And, you know. Not making maybe philosophical statement. There seems to be more and more lawlessness, and if you sit there going, well, there seems to be, no, you gotta do something about it, and that means the police who have the ultimate power, and DOT, which decides what goes where on the streets. You know, again, this charter school does not own the streets and their parents, you know, I mean, they can drive any way they want, wherever the hell they live, but in our community, they're gonna follow the damn laws, because that's what most of us do. Now, obviously, we're not perfect here either, but that's not the point.
I'm sorry, I have one more.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the comment.
Specific to charter schools and the traffic situation, because it's not unique to Zeta Charter, it happens in Amber Charter, happens in all charter schools. When they make the charter applications, they use Community District 6, like our District 6 is up, is like the school equivalent of Community Board 12. They use those statistics in making their charter. If they're going to use those statistics in making their charter, it stands to reason that the statistics for driving in Community Board 12 should also be consistent in the parents that are dropping their children off. Community Board 12, depending on exactly where you are, only about 12 to 14% of people use their car to get to work. And we should expect no more than that number to use their car to put their children into school. 2/3 of the people in this community do not even have access to a car. And the charter school is fundamentally not adhering to the charter that it was issued to operate if it has greater than that amount of number. And that is because it is a commuter school bringing children in who do not live in the neighborhood. So maybe we can have a joint meeting with the education committee, but that particular point, I mean, it's coming up, like, it will come up again and again and again with every single charter school. And we have our community survey for Community Board 6. We should hold them to that standard. How many children are in that building? Oh, there's 800 children. Well, we think that means that you should only have about 100 cars total spread out over your different grades at staggered times. At any day, you could drop children off ever. The end.
Let's bring back the topic. We have to figure out when to pass the resolution again. It's part of MTA for this. I want to answer Jim Burnet's question. So, although the repairs won't be at night, they still need access to the depot.
They shouldn't allow no one to park.
That's the issue.
Wait a minute, I don't understand. Tell me, explain this again.
So I don't have a map to show you. A map would actually kind of break everything. And visually, I think it's a little more clear. Ideally, the no standing or parking sign would be to the going north, be on the east side of the street. If you look on Google Maps, and I think the last time that was updated was like in 2021. If you look on Google Maps, you have cars parked along, even parked in front of the entrance to their parking garages. The reason that they requested the no standing or parking is that essentially, again, if law enforcement did their job, it would be a little easier. But it would give them access at all times. Well, because they're a 24-hour operation. That's the reason for this. When we spoke with DOT, Lyle in the back end, again, he's on board, but he needs the support of the community board. He can't go and implement anything to the agency, have to come to us. And if you look at the situation, it would just alleviate more for safety concerns. No offense, Alberto, you're cool, but it's not, to me, it's not about MTA, it's about safety. Yeah. And I think it will, for there's less headaches. People, it's freezing outside. Nobody wants to wait 20 minutes for a bus because it's delayed. So people are parking and blocking access. So that being said, what are your opinions?
Just so you know, what he just said when you were out is that we really can't, the no standing, no parking has to be 24 hours.
Yeah, it's not necessarily for the school. It's not for a dropping access for the school. It's just to allow access to MTA to their garages.
Oh, I see,
Otherwise,
okay, and well, in that case, fine.
Yeah, it would be at all times, just so.
I mean, if we can make parking available, we should, but obviously, you know, there's a different rationale.
And This is just for one block, from 218th Street to 19th Street, they already have them. Essentially, just to extend it to 20.
But I think, you know, we also, based upon what we heard from, you know, Manila and others, you know. We might, in the same resolution, comment on
Comment.
craziness and how it has to end, maybe we'll phrase it more nice.
Okay. To include maybe a whereas that talks about how the charter school costing these obscenities and. they
Well,
don't
we
have-
could also have would be resolved, we expect something to be done about it.
Oh, okay.
Whomever. You know, there used to be a terrible mess at the charter school that is in the building that used to be the Mother Cabrini High School between Cabrini Boulevard and Port Washington Avenue to South Brookline Park. And it was crazy, and there's a bus there too, and it drove the residents crazy, and it took a while, but this is now under control. They have no double parking signs. Sometimes you need additional school personnel out there. And, you know, they can actually say to a parent, you don't follow the rules, you know, this will affect, you know, correct, anyway. But, you know, so, because again, and, you know, again, I don't know where these people live. They may live right across the road in the Bronx, where things are just as crazy as they are here. But if they come from some fancier place, well, they don't allow these things where they live. So we're not gonna allow them here. And again, it's our kids and our adults who are ultimately in danger. We don't want that.
Mhm. Jamila has her hand up. Go ahead, Jamila.
Oh, it's just very quickly. I just want to say for the record, personally, I am not against charter schools. Just because I came from a charter school in my previous job. However, the state level is the one that has jurisdiction over the charter, right? Over who makes decisions for charter schools. And I think that one thing that I am seeing in our community is a lot of pop-up of them. And I'm not sure necessarily if they're going through elected officials, because we had, for example, American Dream was supposed to come to the Radio Hotel, right? They came to us and we said, we understand what you guys are asking for, but we necessarily didn't give that support because of the location, right? So I feel like there has to be something maybe on the side of the community board to have some type of power, to have some type of opinion when a charter school comes into the community, because I think it's location that plays a big part in it, and also the history of the charter school. Just wanted to say that.
All right, so I guess we'll go more on this, just to move on here. Right, so any abstentions, any opposition to having DOT again study, I believe it's a study, to install no standing signs, extending it to 20th Street on 9th Avenue? Everybody in favor?
Okay.
So 6.
I'm sorry, Leo, I forget what we said was the length of the study.
So it's 9th Avenue, it's extending northbound between 219th and 220th.
Right, but how long is the study gonna go on before they?
It's
come
a
back?
couple of months, like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming. Perfect. Now, we have one more request from MTA, and this is more of a safety concern. So if you're in the area, if you're familiar with the area on 218th, 219th Street, they're two-way streets. I think one of them might be a one-way street, but both of them are two-way streets, very narrow. There's parking on both sides, school around there, the bus depot. I believe there's like a Spectrum. There's some type of like cable company out there as well. They have offices. Still a lot going on in the area. MTA requested they says, you know, a lot of times their personnel deals with issues, traffic issues. So they went to DOT and they said, you know, we think that these streets should be converted to one ways instead of having two ways. It's just too narrow to have two ways. And quite honestly, I will back them up, especially if there's a school, regardless of who Zeta is or how they run the operations. You still got to take parents coming from other communities. we care about the kids still going to the schools. We want to make sure that we provide a safe environment in our community for them. So their request is to convert West 219th Street between Broadway and 9th Avenue, one way going eastbound, and then convert West 218th Street between Broadway and 9th Avenue, a one-way westbound. So essentially going from two ways to one way. And Alberto, if you can correct me, I might be a little wrong.
278 already went through the process of getting those converted to one ways, like maybe 6 or 7 years ago. But what you just said, like, it is the opposite.
Is the-
219 and 220th, like, so 220th goes eastbound.
Okay,
And 219th goes westbound, and don't forget that across the street there, you have the Allen Pavilion
yeah, look at it.
entry, so you have to make it easy for ambulances to
Yes.
get down there too.
That's a good point. Alberto, you still on?
I'm here.
So Allegra brought up a good point. Allegra, I know you're on the walker.
Oh, sorry,
Can
I'll
you-
talk
yeah.
louder. So 278, the school, when it was back in the day when Carmen's daughter was up there.
Mhm.
And the parents there already went through the process of making those streets to 19 and 220, they made them one way.
Okay,
The DOT, they did their study, they had their reasons for why they made them the particular direction they did. So are they asking to switch? And the other thing
Yeah,
is,
we're asking.
Ninth Avenue there, north of 220th, it curves and also becomes an east-west street, and Ninth Avenue is two ways. Is that what they're talking about? And the loop that goes 218
is that what
to
you're,
Ninth Avenue?
referring to, Alberto? MTA's request?
We're referring to what you described, but it's also a study to see if DOT feels that would improve conditions in that specific area. Because it's changed slightly, right? With one less school in the area. So we're wondering if DOT can do a study to see if that would benefit operations there safely for everyone involved.
When you say that, what is that exactly that you're referring to?
I'm sorry, I missed that part. Say it again.
When you say that, because you said to do a study to make sure that that would ease up. I'm sorry, I don't remember what exactly.
The one-way conversions of the 218, 219 that were described, see if those one-way conversions, a study of that, if DOT feels that would improve current conditions.
You're not, I'm only a little bit confused because Allegra just mentioned that they were already one way. I think she asked if you guys were switching it.
Yeah, so I think what he's trying to say is 218 converted to a one-way going westbound, so going from 9th Avenue to Broadway, so one way. And then on 219th, instead of going westbound, flipping it, going eastbound, so coming down instead.
So 218
Correct.
is a two-way.
Mhm.
And Ninth Avenue is a two-way.
Mhm.
Then you only have two one-way streets there, which are 219 and
It's a
220, not 218.
Yeah, no.
So I think he's saying 218, 219, maybe he means 219, 220.
Well,
The
we
other
can
party,
listen to
I don't know.
clarify.
No, it's not, it
Definitely.
wants to make 218 one way.
Yeah, he's trying to make,
This meeting, I remember you being there because you, but it was before you were the chair.
Hmm.
The other big party that was all up in arms was the car wash there, because they had their reasons for the way they wanted traffic flow to happen. As well.
Can we try to
So,
pull it?
but I mean, a study, it's already.
Oh, we're over there.
I would say that if you make it westbound, then you don't have, there's a street segment on 9th Avenue
Mhm.
between 218 and 219, where the access is gonna be a little bit funny. The loop is consistent if it's eastbound, and then it continues as you get up into where 9th Avenue curves back to Broadway. That makes a nice loop.
that's,
I'm trying to see.
we're gonna pull it up, just so we can all have clarity in Alberto. Because I'm understanding what it is. Go ahead, Jim.
I want to support what Allegra was saying, and by the way, feel better, I don't know what happened to you, but I hope you mend quickly. As Allegra pointed out, these
This is
streets
right.
were rearranged,
Yeah.
a bunch of years ago.
Can I share the screen? With
It's-
things that he can.
I think Alberto can see. Alberto, you see
No,
the screen,
you
right? Shit.
I can see.
Oh, no, you can see,
You can see, you can see it.
You can see the map?
Yeah.
Very good. So, the thing is
You can zoom in
that.
a little bit more.
All
just-
right, I'm gonna zoom in, maybe I'll make it.
It's better in satellite view.
Satellite
Let
view,
everybody-
Yeah, you can see the lines.
see where it says layers.
Where, okay, right here. Okay. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, you go to
Yeah, 218 is two-way.
So 218,
But do you notice a pattern of the cars parked on one side? Those are not private vehicles on 218th Street. Those are all appear to be like buses and or like sanitation vehicles, which
I have exactly what Alberto is, I don't want to discuss. So what Alberto's saying, convert 218th Street onto a one-way.
Are you sure Alberto can see this? Can you ask
Yeah,
him?
you see. Yeah.
Oh,
So what he's saying is convert this,
I didn't share the screen.
it's, no, because what we're seeing is what everybody else.
Okay, got it.
So convert 218th Street into a one-way, going westbound, so going up, so going this way. Going drive up this way. So going from 9th Avenue to Broadway.
Is that accurate, Alberto?
And then to 19th Street.
Yeah,
you see how-
to 218.
Avenue-
So like Allegra said, they wanna switch.
Yeah, so he wants to, so 19th Street is a one-way going westbound from 9th Avenue to Broadway. Essentially, he would want that the one-way.
219 going
opposite
down.
Direction from Broadway to.
Does that mean you also got a from 220?
means you gotta move the stoplight from 220 to 219th Street.
Can we then?
And yeah,
Well, is it then 219 and 220 are parallel?
Yeah, Alberto,
So you got from both.
Yeah, I'm here. So I think is 219 convert one way eastbound and 218 convert one way westbound.
Breaking down.
good to you again.
We definitely want DOT to do a study to see
Alberto,
how they feel about that.
He's going to repeat himself.
Yeah, Alberto, we lost you completely, man. If you could repeat.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. So
Go
like
ahead.
you said, we're asking for 29 Street convert.
Alberto, I'm sorry, can you just pause 1 second?
218 one way westbound.
Alberto, Alberto, yeah, Alberto, we're losing you.
So essentially the same thing
On this way.
with the signage. A study from
Alberto, so we're losing, we understand now exactly what MTA's requested for DOT to do the study, but is there a specific reason you guys are asking for this? Like what's the purpose of this change? Or for DOT to at least propose a study for this change? Well, what is the purpose? Like what it will enhance? Is it safety? Is it, I guess, traffic congestion, traffic flow? What is the purpose of it?
Alberto, you still there?
In the meantime, let me just continue. Streets had some orientation way back when, and we and DOT and the various, individuals and, the stakeholders, I think that may be a passé term now, but the stakeholders involved all put their heads together and decided what to do. And there had been, whether it's still there or not, this, car wash that had specific wishes also. Now, if the car wash is gone, that's one less actor in the mix.
The car was on Broadway?
No, the car was still there.
They're still there.
And they're very busy.
Okay,
They're doing very good business.
up in Allen so that it was local to the people who are interested, instead of having to commute 2.5 miles down to the meeting space, Community Board 12 from this location.
Car was suspended.
okay, so the point is that, I have no problem with DOT doing a traffic study, and it would involve, actually that whole section up there. And, again, for whatever reason, we did not hear why DOT wants it. I mean, the MTA wants this, But I'm not sure there's an entrance to the garage all the way back to the.
And then like you brought up a good point. When they did do this study a while back, it was also to maintain access for the hospital. I don't think it is right.
Oh,
Right
absolutely.
across.
front.
and then
Yeah, it's
right
the
across.
entrance right there.
Yeah, in front of it.
So we could ask the DOT to do this comprehensive study of the area like they did 7 years ago, or whenever it was, to see whether any changes are warranted, and we could include the recommendations of the MTA. And as part of this, I think, they would have to, and again, it's not gonna happen right away, but, get enough people involved, put their heads together, we can be able to do something. We'll get a better idea of what people want, what people need, and then once DOT sees the needs, they will decide, whether this is feasible or not. But again, the hospital would have to be involved. As someone pointed out, there's that cable building, which has lots of parked vehicles. All these various stakeholders would have to be involved. And then ultimately, as I think Allegra pointed out, once DOT has a plan, then there would have to be a public meeting. We would probably meet up in Inwood, so that the local residents, and we would invite parents from the charter school and people from, the cable company. Car wash.
No, my only concern, well, my only, I guess, problem with this is when we write this resolution, we have to give reasons why. We're either supporting, study, or opposing. I'm not sure.
Well, until we hear
Traffic
from-
congestion is the issue. But we don't have, maybe Alberto could elaborate, we don't have a reasoning to ask for the study.
Is he back,
Especially if it did something a few years back.
is he back on? Can he share?
He's on, but I think he's having problems.
But don't, and they're going to build two large buildings.
Yes.
Like they already had the RFP out for the 9th Avenue, and it's gonna be all like public housing. It's just like right there, just off screen to the east. And that will, like, whatever traffic study they do today will not be
It will-
built in 5 years.
It will
time.
completely change, you're completely right.
Yeah, it's not public housing, it's affordable housing. And that'll be about 500 units on that stretch of street there.
Yep.
Big.
So, brother, is there something you think that we can, guess, table or can have ongoing discussion?
Well, I
or-
think, like you said, we can't really come out and support this until Alberto and or the MTA tell us why they want to do this,
I support your idea, Jim, what are you saying about getting together with the neighbors? And see what they say.
And until MTA tells us why they want to do it, we're not gonna do anything,
Exactly, we can't.
We already spent, and Allegra will agree to this. This went on for probably
Months,
almost a
years.
year because
Yeah.
of all these parties involved. And again, the bottom line is you want to do it right and and maybe they did it right. And so, number one, we need to hear why, MTA wants this, and then we'll start from there, and then we'll ask for a study, and we'll request it to be sufficiently comprehensive. So that we end up doing something reasonable.
The traffic calming measures, like to keep the kids safe, like really protecting those crosswalks with physical barriers, like big old, like
Street furniture and.
or the boulders, not the plastic boulders. We all know, like Isham and Broadway, those just get run over, like the real ones.
Alberto,
I think we're asking for this study because obviously safety, but more so around the circulation of traffic with this new school there, changing how cars are moved, but mainly how we can access when we come out the depot, we have to shoot up 9th Avenue. And I think the current setup with the school there and their traffic conditions isn't making that feasible for us. So we're hoping that a study from DOT would review if the one ways of both of these streets are conversions, if that would improve the current conditions.
like the school's giving a lot of issues.
They might also consider parking the buses facing westbound to 18th Street, and they're really delaying 20 minutes getting out of there. Like maybe the north side of 218th Street should also be the bus parking instead of like whatever park.
It happens.
So across from Zeta right now, that we were referring to, across like facing the street light? I'm sorry.
Zoom out a little bit.
Yeah.
So facing the traffic light across from Zeta, that's for bus parking as it stands now. But if you're saying if you're on 9th Avenue going north, you're referring to that being bus parking?
No, 218th Street. I know the problem with 9th Avenue is that when you get to the end, you have to turn north into the Bronx.
Mhm.
So it'd be better if you were parking facing westbound on 218th, and then you could turn left onto Broadway.
Yeah, we'll look into all of that. I'm not sure if that's something we might have looked into that already, but based on the route, it might not work for our operations.
But, yeah, always on the protected crosswalk.
I think before we, I'm sorry to interrupt, I think before we discuss proposing, I think we should have a walkthrough with the MTA. Assess the area. Figure out, so we can all
And the whole
visually
committee,
understand what
I agree.
You
the
know,
committee as a whole.
I agree with you.
Meet with DOT and MTA, assess the area, meet with Zeta, would love to speak with them as well, because it's clear they give them headaches. And then ask for the expertise, yeah, we can support a resolution to change the landscape, but I just don't know how plausible. I don't know if, we don't know, I mean, that's what the study, you're asking for the study, but we don't know if it's actually gonna make it worse or better. Yeah, well,
Yeah. So Leo, let's do that. Let's set up a walkthrough. Both agencies, your committee, let's set up some time for that.
we can do that, we can do DOT, MTA, council member's office, Zeta, and traffic enforcement. I think if traffic enforcement, again, man, I'll say
traffic
that.
enforcement is the police department.
Yeah, no, I want to do that.
But my point is, even after this walkthrough occurs, what I personally, and I think the committee may agree with me, we want from MTA, not change this, change that. We want to see diagrams, maps,
Numbers.
show us what this bus is going to do that it can't do now, not, it's gonna improve traffic. Very nice. We want specifics. And without those specifics, I think, and I believe this, as Leo pointed out, and it makes logical sense. We have the walkthrough with the committee and the various other parties, whoever wants to attend. And then based upon what we see, then the MTA can draw up these more precise requests of what they want. And then we can support a study.
And why?
So, the other thing to remember, these are single lane, one-way streets. There is a common formula that you can apply to every scenario that tells you the number of cars that you can have pick up, drop off, it maxes out around 200 to 300 cars per hour. That's just like basic math. There is no studying your way around that. That is the way it is. And in fact, like, I believe that was like an old DOT guy from 1932 that made the original equations that you can just solve, and you can just have them on a bulletin board so nobody feels like they have to go through it again. There is no studying your way around about that maximum volume capacity of a one-way road. That is the one lane, one-way road. There's no way around it.
So I have one more question. This new building they're gonna build, is that on top of this parking lot on that gray thing? That would-
No, it's,
We can't be any more to the east, to be in the river.
Well, that
Where
is
is-
the river.
the river's right behind.
Yeah, the river's over on to the
So-
left.
Yeah, can you just zoom out right here on the bottom?
See, that's
No, I think
river.
that is it. It's
It's
the top
this.
corner.
This area.
And it's not the skinny one. I think it's the one south.
It's the one that you pointed out.
There's not enough
It's
space.
a great thing.
It's
Okay.
the, yeah.
But they're not putting it there.
Because
You can make a.
There's no plans out, but it's supposed to be a waterfront.
That's nice.
But it's not this little corner where your arrow is. It's next lot south, because this one where your arrow is very narrow. I
So it's
don't
probably
remember if
further
it's the
south.
one on 219, 220 or 218, 219 block.
Is there a developer already?
I know
They
there's
are-
it could be this.
It's gotta be that one in
I
there.
think that's MTA uses as their staff.
RFPs were due about a
All
year
right,
ago.
let's move on the agenda. Alberto, we'll set up a walkthrough with the committee, MTA DOT, so we can get Lyle's input, council member's office, and we'll reach out to Zeta. I think that we also have to have a conversation on side. I think they have to be better neighbors. But we'll discuss this, so we'll table this for now. We're not.
Yeah, sounds good. I look forward to the conversation.
All right. Thank you, and do you have any other updates for us? Sorry, it's kind of long-winded.
Last thing I know, congestion pricing went live Sunday. It's the hot topic in a room.
I-
I'm sorry.
I had that as an agenda point. If you don't mind sticking around so we can kind of just tackle this together. It's just a refresher. We want everyone to be
Yeah,
on board, know what's going on. So if you want, we can just jump right into that.
Yeah, before we jump into it, I just want to flag that Wednesday, January 8th, this Wednesday from 12 to 1, we're having a webinar about congestion pricing, speaking about the toll zone, toll rates, easy pass, and discounts and exemptions that folks can apply to if they qualify.
Can you send me that
January
information?
8th, 12 to 1. I'll send the link out to you, Leo, and the team.
Yeah, I'll disseminate it to the community board and hopefully, we won't be able to put it on the newsletter, but hopefully we can send it.
Yep.
I'd like to
I'll send
remind
that over.
that congestion pricing, their environmental impact statement had the I-95 corridor as having increased trucks traffic. And for that reason, perhaps increase air pollution along the I-95 corridor. So that's why Fort Lee is complaining that that comes right through our neighborhood and that's into the Bronx. So we should, if they're going to present something specifically to Community Board 12, they should be
So
coming
this refresher is just to give information. It's already set in stone. It's already happening. There's not much we can do. We can complain, we can grab picket fences and go out there and say we disagree with this, but unfortunately it's here to stay.
No, I don't think that's what she's saying.
It happened, but we should be advocating for our system in New York City to more closely resemble London. This is my opinion here. This is not fact yet, but in London, they avoided people avoiding their congestion pool because they have a big ring road and everything within that ring road, i.e. that would be like all of New York City. They have a low emission standard. So today, for instance, I'll put the help with one day. Everybody downtown, there's less volume of traffic. It looked like uptown, the volumes of traffic were unchanged, which is a positive sign because some of the model predictions were for there to be enhanced truck traffic. So let us all hope that it doesn't increase, but if that's something that we would want them to report on.
Okay. It's something I guess we can. I think it's a good point.
But that wouldn't be now, it would be
No, it
like
wouldn't
later
be.
on,
It would
once
be
there's
later
been
on.
some time.
And we would have to get Steve's committee involved. Steve's the one that gets it. Oh, we'll discuss on this. That's a good point. Yeah, so Alberto, please forward information for the webinar. Again, there's plenty of information online. This is just really basic information. Just so that everyone again knows what's going on. But yeah, Alberto, if you want, you can give a brief overview of it. I have some notes here and I could also talk on as well.
Sure. As we know, it went into effect at 12 o'clock Sunday morning. The congestion relief zone, which is 60th Street South, is where folks would be charged a toll. It's presently $9 during the day between 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. And then it's overnight hours that have a cheaper rate. So what that means is if we're looking at
I bet it all. I don't care.
overnight, it's usually about $225 instead of 9. And there's also crossing credits. So what that means is if I cross, let's say the Queens Midtown Tunnel into Manhattan, I would get a credit of $3 entering the congestion pricing zone. And that goes, and there's also credit for larger vehicles such as small trucks and charter buses. It's a whole list of toll rate by vehicle size and time. That's available online. I'll share that with you as well, Leo. But I also want folks to know that if you're eligible for discount exemptions, those are obviously, you can apply any time for those. And that includes low income tax credit for certain residents, a low income discount plan, and disability exemptions. So if you have a health condition or you transport someone to their appointments or are a caregiver, you can apply and receive that exemption. also, if there's an organizational disability exemption for organizations who transport people with disabilities, such as Tesseract, ambulance services, or schools, they can apply for an exemption as well. And also bus exemptions. So school buses from DOE, commuter vans, licensed TLC, and buses providing scheduled commuter services are exempt from the toll. So there's a whole list of exemptions. I'll share that with you, Leo, just disseminate with the board, the committee. But ultimately, it's $9 at this time, and in 2031 that will go up up to the 15. So it's going in over time.
I just want to highlight that the $9 charge is if you have an Easy Pass. If you don't have an Easy Pass, it's a little more. If you take a cab service in the congestion zone, you will be charged an amount. I think it's like $1.50 to your
correct to your
fare. And yeah, these prices will be phased. Also in 2028, there will be an increase. In 2031, there will be an increase. I think the goal is to get to $15.
The goal is to $15. I do want to highlight these funds are strictly for capital projects. They're not for operating the system. I want folks to understand that. Some folks conflate the two. These will go towards new rail cars, new ADA stations, signaling systems, new buses, electrification of depots. So it's for the whole system as a whole. A portion also goes to our commuter railroads. They're the smaller portion because they're smaller as operating agencies, but the majority will go to New York City Transit to improve the system.
Anybody has any questions? Again, you can find all this information on YouTube. It's been discussed enough on the news. I think we'll also be upset with that. All right, thank you, Alberto. We appreciate it, and we'll set up that walkthrough. I think we should all check out that. Just to get more. All right, so moving on with the agenda, we are supposed to have a presentation by the New York City NYC EVSA on e-bike safety. They scheduled this a couple months ago. The presenter had a personal situation, so she couldn't come in December. So we pushed it for this month. I haven't heard from her today, so we might not be able to discuss. Is anybody here from NYC EVSA online? Can write in the chat or question and promote you. Going once, going twice. Okay, we don't have anybody. What we'll do instead is we'll allow Allegra to give a 3-minute conversation. She was
You want me to give 3 minutes?
yeah. Let's keep it brief. I know you.
Okay, so one slide,
That's
but I would like to still hold a card to give a full presentation.
yes. We'll speak about it in front of her. Yes.
That after 20 years of practice,
Yeah,
I'm not
trust me.
as bad at that as I used to be.
And it was never about the presentation. So earlier, Allegra had reached out on Saturday. She wanted to present when she found out we would have New York City NYC VSA at the meeting present. Allegra is not the only one in our area that opposes and has negative things to say, obviously for reasons that I've also heard on the side. I won't elaborate. I try to give everybody a chance. I'm very fair when it comes to a lot of things in life. I let people formulate their own opinion. You guys, I wanted us to hear them out, and then obviously I was going to give opportunity to everybody in the attendees to give their comments. Again, in our committee, we try to keep it very civil. I think we're all adults, we're all professional. We want to treat each other with respect, even if we're against. And it happens between us that we might not agree on certain topics. I don't think it's fair or right to come at somebody and disrespect somebody because of this. Not saying that anybody in the audience will do it, but I just won't allow for the arguments of disrespect or engagement. But we're gonna allow Allegra to talk about it for 5 minutes. I don't have anybody here.
I just have one slide. I have
Sure.
a presentation that I can show, but I do need help.
Yeah, if we can just help her out.
Yeah.
And again, the reason we're allowing this, usually if it comes later on the agenda, after I submit the agenda, I try not to throw us off because, as a committee, we get the agenda
I
in
would just
advance.
like to put
And
one.
we prepare for certain things, so I don't want it to just throw a wrench in. I think
Yeah,
it's.
well, I can stand, it's fine. I just
No,
need
no, no,
that.
no, but it's.
I can hold it for you.
Plug me in.
Just don't,
Did you make a
And-
motion to alternate the agenda?
No, if you guys want. But-
Provide
I don't have
safety,
that.
I just have one
But
thing.
Alego will be presenting in February on the same topic,
Yes.
more extensive.
Giving us a very brief, preview, so we all begin. to
Just a
understand the
synopsis.
situation.
Kind of, just so we can hear it out because, again, we
Comment
want,
about this
Yeah,
particularly?
it's a question. Wait, I'm not sure what you're bringing up, but
I'm just gonna show one slide because I'm not giving a full presentation.
Mhm.
I can plug in here if you guys have it done.
Wait, can we allow him to finish his comment? Because I think he was middle sentence.
I don't,
yeah. 'cause-
unfortunately, you have to share in that, I don't,
Okay,
gives issues.
I don't,
because
Can you email him? Yeah, can you finish your comment?
yeah, go ahead.
Finish.
finish, sorry, because I've personally been preparing for like months to like thinking about this time of like, I know what the EDSA is gonna say to us. And I know what I wanna say back. So can I say it at this meeting? Cause I know,
Well,
I mean, I think you could probably reserve
Allow
that until
me.
when they're.
yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Remember, I'm a parliamentarian and I'm old and
Yeah.
we actually know something. Ideally, everyone should be here at the same time, that way
Yes.
no one has
Right.
an advantage, and this way they
Yes.
would hear exactly what you were saying. I know you're prepared and I like was prepared, and we'd like to say things, but I think it's much fairer in general and more.
Yeah, when.
I totally agree, Jim, and
Yeah.
that's why it's so important that when they say they're going to be here, they're here, and otherwise they have to wait till maybe next year.
Well, I think Leo will be here
Seriously.
again.
They-
I'll reach out to them
they-
again.
they're denying.
I know.
We expect them next month.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
I spoke to them.
that's the way it
They were
is.
supposed, this is third month.
Yeah, yeah.
In November, they backed out because, somebody got wind and they just didn't want to have altercation. They had some people who were victims of certain things and they didn't want them to be harassed.
Well, I don't even know what anyone's talking about at the moment, which is.
Trust me, Jim, I had to do extensive research to find out. Again,
Right.
we as a committee, we want to uphold fairness and respect. And we want to give everybody the opportunity to represent themselves and
Chequéalo, porque we're gonna put-
for you guys to formulate your own opinion and for us to have discussions.
Can you email this?
Yes.
Leo, are you gonna log on to your?
People reporting that they have been hit and
Yeah.
they were scared of facing retaliation from people.
I'm not sure of that specifically, but I know,
I mean, that kind of would happen.
yeah, that's what I heard.
That's the point we're at.
It gets pretty messy.
Are you gonna log
Believe it or
into
not.
your
No, that's the issue. I'm
No,
not.
let's be.
It's Noemi and Paola and they don't hear, so I could try to log into mine, but last time I did it, it froze the whole thing and we weren't able to
You try.
finish and it didn't,
Because yours is already.
What about Google Drive?
it didn't record
Yeah,
last
do you
time.
have-
Some, I don't wanna do it because last time I actually got
Is this a USB?
word from the office and when I did it,
No, but.
the rest of the meeting didn't record and we were supposed to have
Yeah.
everything.
She throws it
I
on
mean,
Google
that's
Drive.
probably
We
what
access
I'm
Google Drive.
Yeah, if you can put it there,
If
then
you
we
can.
can probably plug it in.
Yeah, exactly.
I just take.
I tried to log in. Something happened, it knocked out the whole system, me wasn't recorded, that's like 30
You can
minutes.
try
ago.
that and then
And
I.
I got,
can
I got pushed back,
You gotta push back.
a lot of pushback. It'd be surprised when people. But,
It's better than hard.
yeah, no, we'll let Allegra, go on the one pager, and then again, I just would rather have everybody here, I think. We wanna give people the opportunity, hold their side so that the committee can form their own opinions.
Yeah.
Versus you hear something, they're like, oh yeah, that's what I'm gonna. We have to go with the consensus, we have to go with an open mind to represent the consensus regarding of. Barry.
And we've gotten pretty good in enforcing, having proper discussions and people not, that's why we have Robert rules, and if necessary, we will follow them strictly.
Yes,
And then all of a sudden you have order. That's why they're called Robert's Rules of Order. It's about order. Mike.
Sorry. You're fine.
Oh.
Take your time, like, bro.
I'm gonna promote Judy Paulson, who has worked with EVSA, I'm not sure if she's. Giving the presentation on, it, but Judy, let me promote you to.
Okay, there we
Why
go.
don't we do this? Briefly here with, to at least discuss.
You wanna click here?
Okay.
We can discuss what they're proposing. and,
They're not proposing, I guess they're just trying to bring awareness,
Okay.
from what my understanding in the email. So I haven't spoken to anybody on the phone, I don't. Again, I did some research on my own, after I heard of a lot of back and forth. I've heard at other community boards, it's gotten really ugly physically, believe it or not.
Obviously.
And honestly, we're not doing that here. If I have to kick everybody out of this room, we will be kicked out.
No.
We're not doing that. We respect each other. We
No.
want to make sure that as, not only as a committee, but as a board, we promote fairness and kindness, respect. So we won't allow in the intercourse.
No.
We can have a conversation.
I just want to.
We call educate ourselves. That's
A lot of the stuff is about regulating stuff with like license, right? And like, I just want to bring up stuff about like registration, right?
that's fair.
And
Leah,
like,
can you just-
we know in the community, like going cars.
Yeah, Judy Paulson. Let me ask Jamila. Jamila still on? Hey, Jamila, can you see if everything, if you can see the slide? Jamila?
I cannot.
Yeah, I think it has to be.
Okay, you were right earlier about the map.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, we're setting it up. Hey, Judy, how are you? Welcome to our committee. Judy, wrote in the chat that she worked with EVSA. I'm not sure if she still does. But go ahead, Judy, you can introduce yourself and,
Yeah, thank you for recognizing me. I've been working alongside EVSA for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now. As I was joining, getting promoted, I missed what the gentleman was saying a moment ago, and I apologize for that. Yeah, EVSA is interested in more regulation around e-bikes and scooters. There are just too many people that are getting hit and killed by these very heavy, very fast bikes. And
Judy,
and
before you
the people,
continue, will you be presenting?
I don't have
Or-
anything to. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have anything to present. No, I was just going to share what information I have.
Okay, that's so let's go from there then. You'll present the information, you'll do your 1 page, we'll have a respectful intercourse between all of us.
Well, again,
Respect the fairness.
this is gonna be a very brief thing, because we'll talk about it next.
And it's gonna be.
I just want to show this one slide, which is about our neighborhood. And it is about safe pedestrians.
So she just, since I had him on the agenda, I'm gonna give him 3 minutes, Judy.
Okay.
And then we're gonna give Allegra 3 minutes, and then we'll give you 3 minutes, and then we'll have a discussion, and we'll end it there for next month. All right, go ahead, Judy.
Can you just?
Awesome, thank you.
These people, and then we'll just.
Judy,
put it
give me
back.
1 second. We're just gonna remove this from our screen, just so that we can see your face. And again, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, basically the concern of EVSA is there are too many folks riding e-scooters, e-bikes, which are heavier and faster than the plain leg-powered ones. And there are too many people that are riding against flow of traffic, running red lights, or both, riding on the sidewalks. And a lot of people are getting crippled, quite frankly, and killed by these bikes. And the trouble is the cops can't do any enforcement at all because A, they can't keep up, and B, they can't identify what the bike was or who was on it. So there's really absolutely no accountability when you're trying to walk your kid to school and you're crossing the street in the crosswalk with a light, and boom. There are a lot, as someone was saying earlier, there are a lot of people who have lost their ability to make a living. They have injuries that are going on that are permanent. So getting licensing, registration, and insurance on e-bikes is something EVSA is trying to make happen. They do recognize that a lot of deliveristas that are caught up in this are being pressured by the apps. And the idea is to have the apps, they're trying to get the apps to take the responsibility for their ridiculous timeframes that they put on their delivery folks. And that's part of what EVSA is worried about as well. Happy to answer any questions that I can. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
All right, we're gonna have the questions, and then we're gonna jump into the presentation.
So about that last
If you
point.
could, for Judy.
Okay, sorry, my name is Gabriel Zane. So about that last point that you made, in terms of like regulation of people on delivery bikes, I'm sure as you know, like a lot of these people are undocumented. So is part of this plan to like go through and identify each one of those people and make sure that we're bringing them into court, because it feels, how are you going to make sure you navigate in a way that doesn't jeopardize their like immigration status and least like mass deportations?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Yeah, I understand the concern. am not the leader of this group, and I know that we've got some lawyers involved that are digging into that because the idea is to put the pressure on the apps and not on deliveristas. So if the bike were registered to the app and not to the individual deliverista, that would be sufficient for us, I believe. I'm speaking a bit out of turn because I don't know quite the details around that, but yeah, we are focusing on the apps rather than on the individuals trying to connect it to the bike.
Thank you, Judy. You had a
So
question?
I have a general
Your
question.
name?
Ira Gershenhorn. I don't actually live in this area.
All right. Thank you for coming to
I'm
me.
here a lot.
Yes.
I'm in Inwood a lot.
Yeah, if you live or play here, you're part of the area, so.
So
Thank you.
anyway, my question is, when you say a lot, anything that you say about people being injured and killed and what's the data? What is your source of all this information?
That's a really excellent question, and it's one of the things that we've been really struggling with, because the form that the cops fill out when someone is injured or killed, the only box they have to check is motor vehicle accident. And of course, if it's an e-bike, that's a motor vehicle, and so that's the box they check. There has been effort, and I believe there was a bill passed in the Assembly and Senate in the last session to expand on that and be able to differentiate between a car and an e-bike or e-scooter. I think that was just passed in the last session, but I don't think it's enforced yet. So yeah, getting decent data has really been a huge issue. We do have a lot of EVSA has stats about the number of people who joined EVSA and who show up, walking with a cane. We have one person who used to play cello for the New York Philharmonic, who can't anymore because she's partly paralyzed on one side. There's a lot of anecdotal information that begins to really mount up. But yeah, getting police reports that are accurate. In fact, sometimes the cops will say, "Oh, you left the scene of an accident ambulance, and so therefore we can't take a report." There's pushback that the survivors of these accidents do get. So the data is a little mild. I think I'm out of time, sorry.
No worries. Allegra, I'm gonna let you present. You'll give your feedback to the question. I'm not gonna take any more questions. We're gonna wait till next month till we have the presentation. Does anybody in the committee have any specific questions for Judy? Judy, again, thank you for joining us. Again, she's representing. She's giving her opinion. It's okay to have different opinions. It's part of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anybody in the committee have any questions?
I had a clarifying question. Judy, can you just clarify again? Maybe I was sitting here correctly about getting the apps to register the e-bikes. Can you just?
Delivery company.
Yeah, okay, so I just want her to clarify it. Maybe I didn't hear correctly. Can you just say that one more time?
Yeah, delivery company. EVSA is aware that the deliveries, the folks doing the deliveries are under a lot of pressure to deliver like yesterday. And that's what's generating some of the problem. And so if the delivery companies, the folks that are, I can't think right now, but the apps that the people are eBay, I want to say eBay, that's not right. But if the apps were to be held accountable for this, that's really the place to put the responsibility. Because for one thing, they're the ones making the most money off of it.
All right, Judy. We're gonna discuss more offline. I do think that we would like NYC VSA to come and give a presentation. And there's a lot of people in attendance that have very strong differing opinions, and we want to give an opportunity to have some dialogue in the future. I don't think it's fair. She doesn't have a lot of information in front of her. She's going from what she represents. That's fine.
I'm winging it. Thank you.
Tiffany Khan, do you still have a comment? She had her hand raised for a while. Hi, Tiffany. Yes.
I take the Henry Hudson Parkway every day to bike with my kids to school. And I can tell you that there are signs all over the parkway that say no e-bikes, scooters, etc. And that is blatantly disregarded or ignored as people zip by you. I bike with a regular bicycle, and there's a tremendous difference between a regular cyclist and an e-biker. And it's unfortunate that people lump us all into the same category. But one easy way, and it's a lot of times it's City Bike, which is part of Citibank. Why can't we reach out to City? They are also people. You can put something on the bicycle that prevents it from riding on that parkway, the same way that you cannot take a shopping cart out of Target beyond a certain distance from the location. So.
Thank you, Tiffany, for your comment.
Is this Sharon?
There's even.
All right. You have a question? Well, now you haven't really spoken.
I was just going to say, there's so many on my street.
What's your name? I'm sorry.
I'm Anderson, sorry.
Hi.
Anderson
It's a pleasure.
Taylor. So in my neighborhood, there's like maybe even more private bicycles though, and then where's like gas powered motorcycles that are like bigger than all of those tables. And so that can't be linked to any app as well, so we're gonna have to like, or it would have to be taken further after the apps are held accountable. That.
Thank you, Anderson.
So
Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
thank you so much. And it is true that the NYPD does respond to crashes and they memorialize the crashes with this document called the MV, Moving Vehicle 104 AN. I don't remember what AN stands for. It's a crash report, and New York City had the foresight to make open data laws so that every crash report issued in the entire New York City for like the last decade, you can go and pull that crash report yourself as a private citizen. Now, because I'm, principal nerd number 1 here, I have pulled the crash report for the last 6 years for our neighborhood. You can stack the data however you want. You can stack it for your block, you can stack it for your zip code. Here I stacked it for Manhattan Community Board 12, and I've broken it down into individual months because this is a time series. And when you have a time series, that means that you can look for when there's been a change in something that's happened. You can see like, oh, I know this policy was implemented at X date. You can look at the time series and see if something strange has happened. So this is a time series of pedestrian injuries in Community Board 12. Each of those bars represents a month worth of pedestrian injuries. Now, thank God, we don't have that many injuries in our neighborhood. So the y-axis here to make sure that our statistics can be compared to all other communities, New York City as a whole, I have normalized or divided the number of injuries in our neighborhood by our population and then scaled it so it's like normal integer numbers. So this is why that says per 100,000 persons per month. That's what that means. And then the x-axis, of course, are months starting with January of 2018. Now the colors are the kinds of vehicles involved on the crash report. I did not discriminate on who caused what because who knows whether or not the NYPD actually investigated. I have liberally said that any crash that mentions a scooter or a bike or a car, that's how it gets crashed. It gets categorized. So the first thing you see here is that this is a graph that's mostly oranges or yellows, whichever color. Those are cars and trucks. The red colors, I've labeled it scooter. These are mopeds. These are larger 300-pound, 200, 300-pound vehicles. We all remember during COVID, they brought those Rebel scooter things. These are currently licensed. So these, you should also, in your head, you should put that red category with the oranges because this is not what EVSA is talking about. They're talking about e-bikes, like the class 1, 2, 3 e-bikes. These are generally vehicles that weigh.
Can you explain the class 1, 2, 3?
But before you expand on that, can you just clarify for your research on what you did and how you pulled the data? The scooters in the actual crash reports, how did you determine that there was a scooter? Either you used the word, like you looked for the word that says scooter?
I thought for every word that I can ever heard used to because
You like what?
important,
Yeah.
right? So if they said scooter, if they said moped, if they said lightweight motorcycle, I was very liberal in my definition of what a scooter was. And the e-bike, that is a different kind of definition. Now, it is true that the reason I told you this crash data goes back like over a decade. Why have I started in 2018? It's no coincidence. That's when they started partitioning things out on who was causing the injuries, whether it was a bike or whether it was a car or whether it was a moped scooter thing. And so that's why I started in 2018. So earlier we heard an answer that was factually incorrect about them not indicating what kind of vehicle caused the accident. That's actually not true. And you can easily go to the New York City Open Data page and just look for yourself. It's a data table. You can go in there and browse it. So here we have it. You can see that the number of injuries in our neighborhood that are caused by moped scooter things and or cars, trucks is about 95% of the injuries. We don't have very many. You notice that this is not a continual spectrum. You see that there's little segments. This represents like 1 or 2 injuries. We never have more than 1 or 2 injuries a month being caused by bikes. Never. We just don't. And even though they can be very startling and scary, like they're silent and they sneak up on you and it scares the pants off of you. Yes, but you live to tell the day about when you got strafed by that deliverista dude trying to earn minimum wage. Yes, in closing, do you want to ask me about some weirdnesses here? So everybody can tell, like when COVID hit New York City, that's when, look how low our injuries were because everybody was on lockdown. So you look there in March 2020, it's on lockdown. And then you're supposed to say like, what is that really, really tall line? And I lied. I have one more slide to show you. I had to put this in here because it was not an e-bike that took out my favorite Friday place. It was in fact a private vehicle, not a commercial vehicle. And I was to say, like, Newton's laws do not discriminate on whether you're working for an app or whether you are just on your own. When you get hit by a heavy, fast vehicle, and that discriminate, I will show next month, like the point between like dying or having a serious injury or not, like e-bikes are on the edge of that. So if we have e-bikes that are going over 25 miles per hour, that's one thing, but those already are getting licensed, those larger, heavier things, because they're not really e-bikes anymore. There's a spectrum, but those are the kind of things that need licenses already. The smaller e-bikes that we're talking about, that don't require licenses, they simply lack the mass and the velocity to cause grievous harm. The end.
We'll take the point and
The end.
it's very interesting. We're gonna have a more detailed conversation. You will be presenting next month.
Yes.
I have included you in the agenda. We're gonna table this conversation. I think there's a lot of input from everyone, right? I'm a car driver. Some people ride by, yeah, so we're all gonna have input. I do wanna give the opportunity for everyone to give their opinion. I just think there's no point of doing it right now because we're gonna want a long-winded conversation. And there's just more schmutz. But I appreciate you presenting on short notice. We'll have you next month. Let's just move it. It's been that long for the time being. All right, so we're gonna go to old business. Bruce, you want to discuss any updates on the West 158th Street development? I know that's still going. I actually nobody's doing anything. So I actually reached out to the developer. Maybe they're timid. They don't know. Well, they don't respond. Of course, to come to a meeting. I asked them, come with a presentation. You never know, you might win some support, but they haven't responded.
Well, DOT was supposed to go and inspect, and they haven't done it, from what I understand.
Yeah, they have not done it. Lyle said he will get back to me, and he was gone for a good amount of
Nobody can
December.
find him.
So I'm gonna take a note of it. I'm gonna take a note of that, and we're gonna email him. I'm gonna give you the email. So we can start poking the bear.
And Jody
And Jody as well. Jody, any updates on it? I know I've gotten some emails.
Because we're looking at 165, 158. The
Viaduct area.
I gave you that whole list.
Riverside Drive West,
Complete
which is
update.
still not done.
So, yeah, I think
That's
it's.
160 cars that can park there.
Mhm.
And now we have congestion pricing and everybody's coming into our neighborhood because they take the one train. And, you know, it's.
They take their car on the one side?
Yeah, you don't know that?
Well, I've seen a e-bike and a motor scooter on the train before.
Oh, yeah.
Not e-bike, I think they're really
We have-
small.
we have
Motor
one-
scooter, like actual, like
No, that's
Jody's-
3,000 pound, like big boy. And I was like,
We have
oh, I don't know.
158 per se, which intersects with 6 blocks, 6
Yes,
streets.
yeah.
Hers, mine, Morgan Place, whatever. So it's a mess.
And I just, yeah, I think that we need to sort of get some updates on that at this point if we can.
Yeah, we should push, but remember, not much actual stuff is gonna change in the winter anyway.
Right, I was gonna say, it's the holidays, maybe we just reach out again.
And again, you know, we want information.
I think, and you know what, I'll say this on the record, I think they should be a little more proactive. I think it's different if we mentioned it once and never brought it up again, but for the last at least 4 or 5 meetings, this has been an ongoing conversation, ongoing topic. We'll allow the Christmas break and the holidays, people get busy, maybe DOT's not in office, but it's something they should have addressed a while ago. So we'll continue poking the bear. And
Thank you.
We'll start escalating it as we go because we need some answers. It's not fair that we're here to represent a group of people and coming with these concerns, but we have no answers. And I get emails from your neighbors, saying, hey, what's going on with this? Any news? And the reality is that happen. Okay. So it's kind of embarrassing. So we will.
Well, it's not our fault.
No, it's not our fault, but we need to hold the people responsible, accountable.
And
There's
we
no
do
reason
have
shouldn't.
two significant resolutions that have been out there on.
Yes.
For a
correct.
while, and one is at one
I
sixty-five.
have a city council person who knows what's going on.
Kathy actually, prior to holiday, I had to respond. I was very busy during that. But she reached out during the holiday and said, if there's any resolution from the committee that you need me to do some follow-up, please let me know. So maybe we bring
Who said
that.
that?
Kathy.
Oh, Kathy.
Yeah, our chair. Or Madam
Chair
Chair.
Kathy.
Chair Kathy. So we'll bring it to her and say, hey, they're dragging their feet on this. What's going on?
I call her Catherine.
Catherine. So we'll follow up. I don't think it's fair. All right, so we have about a couple more things. We're gonna allow. They've been waiting for a while. We're gonna allow to present on, not to present, but to just start a discussion again on permanent parking. With the congestion zone and the tolls, it's now more than ever that. Even though it hasn't shown any data, but it's only been a day old. The reality is that a lot of people, once they start paying these fees, they're gonna come park in a area and take the train. I would do it, I'm not gonna lie to you, if I lived elsewhere, I would, 99%. If I wasn't trying to pay that toll on a daily basis, I would park as close as I can in the city, take my train up and come back. Obviously, around these areas, I think it's a conversation that we have to bring in eventually. We don't have a lot of meters, a lot of, like they do downtown, like we do in Midtown, or Upper West Side, Upper East Side. Just a conversation we'll bring in. I know people won't be happy to hear it, but we might have to ask DOT to install meters in our area. But permanent parking, I think it's something that we should start discussing. I know Councilmember De La Rosa, while back had proposed, there was a committee proposing it. I'm not sure where it went. I could reach out to the office, but we'll do a little more extensive discussion. But real quick, so there is DOT in accordance to local law 168. This happened during the pandemic. They came up with an initiative. I guess the state made them come up with an initiative where there's a lot of accidents happening with delivery and e-commerce, et cetera. And because of the increase after the pandemic, they are required to create loading zones in neighborhoods. And our neighborhood is one of the ones that it's on a chart meant to promote enhanced safety and reduce traffic. So we have 3 new loading zones in our area. One is in front of 72 Nagle Avenue. The other one in front of 2 Sickle Street, which is the two buildings next to mine. And the other one is by you guys on Riverside Avenue, Riverside Drive, 601 West 156th.
Wait a minute.
601 West 156th Street.
What was the first one?
156?
156th Street, 601 West 156th.
All right, well, 2 have been promised on my road. And
You see, we could put it in this. The first one was on 72 Nagle Avenue. So it's closer to Broadway.
2727.
No, it's like Nagle by
What's the back?
Elwood.
Oh,
That's interesting. That's the back of the Hispanic Society. The whole one side is Riverside Terrace. So you can put a loading zone there. You just lose a couple spots.
Yeah, it's about 2 spots, they say.
Okay.
Average, 2 spots on average. Let me put it up for you guys, in case. Let's see here. So
BFG, can you show what's the criteria for creating this loading zone?
there's a whole letter and I can share with you
How many
guys.
Amazon boxes?
Right, that's what I'm just curious.
Yeah, so there's a area, I know that per neighborhood, they're supposed to create 5 yearly, annually. I believe last year we had 6 total. 3 that they released, or that DOT sent to the board last month, and I get the letters from Ebenezer. But we have 6 total. We fought one actually in this committee on 175th Street. I don't know if you guys remember when Debbie was chair. They installed one on 175th Street between Broadway. Oh, and that doesn't only include e-commerce. It's I'm not sure if you guys seen signage where it says like, oh, like Uber pickup, or if you renting a car, there's a few criteria. So it's e-commerce, is like Uber pickup, if you're renting a car, rent a car. They have signage. We see it all over. We probably don't notice it. But they had one on 175th Street between Fort Washington and Broadway. It took up 2 spots. They came to us, believe, a few business owners and a good amount of residential patrons. They came to us and they successfully removed it from the area. So if something that doesn't seem plausible to your area for whatever reason, you can bring it to us and we'll fight DOT on it. Also, if you have an area in the district where you're like, well, it makes sense to have it here, you can also bring it to DOT and they will review it.
You were looking to a map right now.
Yeah.
Is there a current map with all of them?
No, there's.
Or you're just on Google
So-
Maps?
Yeah, it's showing,
We should-
You
rules
can
and
find them on the New York City DOT signs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I look for.
So I was
Inside
gonna say,
parking.
I have one right next to my building, basically on Cooper.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
one,
okay.
yes, that's one of the ones. that I-
Cars just park there all the time. So like enforcement, we're just circling
It's
back
the
to
same,
enforcement
yes,
again.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's, I just wanted to mention that.
That's a good note, though, and I'll bring that up to DOT, that you guys are implementing, but there's no enforcement, so what's the
Yeah.
point of it? At
I
the
mean,
end of
that's
it,
not
what
their
is-
fault though, I understand
It
that.
is, and they'll say they're an enforcement agent, but the reality, they're not an enforcement agency. But the reality is that you're taking away 2 parking spots, legit parking spots, making it legal now, but then you have your big Amazon trucks or whoever, UPS, or whoever these people are, double parking, so now you're causing issues for everybody else.
They've already got something here.
Yeah, so that's it.
That's it?
That's it. So it was installed 2, no, last month, or a month, November,
So we can check the box.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so this is basically to help the Hispanic Society in some way, right?
I'm assuming that maybe they've reached out to them.
And the block.
Okay.
Again, if you guys
Then
have.
I need to talk to you because we have, you know, that single lane roadway for 8 blocks.
She's got it worse.
That needs
you
it,
know,
and you brought up a point, actually.
I have been bringing it up for almost 8 years now.
So we'll, Ed Pinkar sends us a letter, and in there's a division in DOT that filters these concerns and these addresses. We can reach out and say, hey, listen, one thing I've been doing proactively with DOT is you're not gonna come into our area and tell us or dictate what you're trying to do. You have to ask us first. So it's something to consider. We'll reach out to them and say, if you're gonna do this, consider this location because it's needed. Yes, it's just a sign.
I mean, just so you know, we did the walkthrough, which is included in that email that I sent you. And we were promised 2 loading zones. The only thing we got were no standing signs all along the sidewalk. And now we get fined $115. And there is now one place along that 8-block stretch of roadway that we can unload a thing.
We'll reach out to them.
And I got one of those $115.
You know, it's strange, there's a church down the block and they should have a no standing. You don't need 2 no standing on that block.
Yeah, you should have.
Because the church doesn't operate every day, you know.
That's weird. I mean, maybe they have a request and they run grandfather. That's what we have. But if they want to request, they're able to do so, they will get their.
That's Maria Luna's church.
I'm surprised Maria Luna has never advocated. Strong. She's never advocated for it. I mean, she.
Yeah, well,
that she never.
it's getting old.
Those zones, as you pointed out, come in different flavors. There's the ones that Amazon might use.
Yeah,
And then
Amazon.
there's the ones that someone else referred to where if you have like zip car. they
Yes.
Leave a zip car there for you.
Yes,
But the one in
exactly.
my neighborhood is just 1 or 2 blocks away,
Mhm.
as the gentleman said, people just park there.
Unfortunately, the enforcement issue. But if there's no reason for it to be that we can request for them to relook at it, they will remove it if need be. Another one of those in history was removed recently after a lot of backlash. There was one of those like zip car, leave the rental car here, and there was 2 parking spots. It was right by the A train station almost in the future. They removed it. Go ahead, Carl, I'm sorry.
When you reach out to DOT, can we probably get them maybe at the onset of this new year to just come back to us and just share from their end, their list of projects concerning our area? I want to see, I think it would be helpful for us to see like, what exactly are you working on? Like, we have a running list of things that we brought up, but we would love to just be like, hey, can you just get clear to us on the list and like tell us like, what are you working on in this neighborhood? And for us to see it like in one big picture, I think that would be helpful for us to see like if they're actually like doing anything on it, like what's the status on that? I feel
There's
like
a-
that, something like that would be very helpful.
There's a lot that goes into it, and we won't get into the discussion. 1, it's long-winded, and 2,
Right.
politics come into play. I'll leave it at that.
That's fine. I'm just
Big
curious to
time.
know, like, if they
Yeah,
can
and
just tell
Robin,
us
I'm telling one of the meetings,
what they're currently working on in this neighborhood. I
They-
feel like that would be helpful.
there is powerful pieces in the background that are pushing for certain things. And that takes priority over a lot of the things that we discuss that actually matter to us, right? So it's a huge tug and pull between us and them. We will continue to follow up with certain things, but I think we took a stance in June, and Debbie started the movement, but we kind of solidified it that we will not support anything that comes to our backyard without input from us. And not only us as committee, board in general, and also you guys, right? We're the ones that make up this thing, we're the fabric of it. So it's gonna take some time, but I think we're going in the right direction. We just gotta, politics comes together, and we'll discuss all that. Can't really go into too much detail. All right, we'll move on. We're gonna go with permanent parking.
Okay, I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Fred Sofa, and I've
Fred is the man.
come to a few of these meetings and suggested that we explore permanent parking in CB 12. And I've written a note set that I did email to Leo, and hopefully you can pass it on to anyone else. And as part of that, it includes a white paper prepared by Gail Brewer when she was the borough president of Manhattan, which I found very informative. I do have a background in architecture, not so much in urban design. I have met Sam Schwartz. And so this topic is on my mind, and I'm just going to read some of my notes. Now that congestion pricing is set to be implemented, other aspects of traffic control will be reconsidered. Among those is permit parking for motor vehicles on city streets. This is an issue that will persist until it gets resolved. And I'm hoping that CB 12 will be in the vanguard of this issue and maybe even be in a pilot program. Our conception of city streets has evolved over the years. Today, the current conception of a street has reverted back to a much older one, that streets are a public good, they have significant value, and that their use should be regulated for the benefits of the citizens of New York City. In other words, because space is so valuable in New York City, street space, particularly curbside parking, should not be given for free. There's not a private space for exclusive private use. Hence, the current task is to ensure that public good be distributed in a manner to the community that reflects that community values. And so one distribution method for this is permit-only parking. Okay, what permit parking will not solve? What permit parking will not solve is it will not create surplus parking spaces. And this, if you read the white paper, this is something that comes up in all these studies and professionally. There is a price point where you can charge for parking that will create surplus spots on the street. That price is so prohibitively high that it's not practical, and it certainly will not be equitable. So within this community board, we're also expecting an equitable solution. Okay, and here's what permit parking can solve. Parking spots will be redistributed to the residents to the exclusion of non-residents. So given that New York City residents pay for the streets through taxes, this seems reasonable. A permit system that ties each permit one and only one VIN vehicle registration number will create a system that excludes a robust secondary market. This is the consideration. Now I'm getting a little bit into the weeds. I apologize, but obviously if you have something that's valuable, you can resell it. And so we're trying to avoid that. One good side effect is that unregistered vehicles and ghost plate vehicles will be in violation for a parking system and will therefore be subject to robust reinforcement. Vehicles owned by New York City residents but registered out of state will be in trouble because we will not be able to go. So one side effect is that all those vehicles, which I estimate on my block between 5 and 8% of all vehicles, they're either going to disappear or be registered. Okay, there's more. It goes on and on and on and on and on. The program will have some benefits and it will have some negative side effects, like how the visitors park and who gets a permit at what price. And there's no real solutions to any of those. Those problems will be solved as they come up. So the idea is that our community board maybe can suggest a pilot program through our council member or ourselves. And get that program implemented and see if it really works and makes our lives better. Because and it goes back to the first thing I said, is that city streets are a public good and they should be used for the public good and not a private good. And so the thought that you have your car and you park for free in New York City, which is the most expensive real estate in the country, just doesn't make any sense. And it even goes back, it's like a Milton Friedman argument that if you use something, you should pay for it. That's the congestion pricing concept. If you use this good, which is the bottom of Manhattan, you should pay. It would be extended that every block that you drive should be an easy pass block. You should pay some nominal fee to drive in any block in the city, just as you should pay some nominal fee for having exclusive use to parking and talk. And so that's my thought. What I don't know and what I rely on the board and this subcommittee is to create a mechanism that will get this to the point where it can become a pilot program, or at least be considered as a pilot program with some specifics. And the caveat that every other city in the US has some version of this program, San Francisco, Chicago.
Hoboken is our
etc.
first stores.
Try parking in across the street in Englewood
You
Heights.
guys,
Possible.
sorry, but if you guys go, if you drill in Hoboken, they have a permanent parking system. Honestly, and I'm a car driver, it doesn't work for everybody. So a lot of our community rents are low income. And the reality is that in order for it to work in the way, for it to mention the way that it should, you can't bring it at a low price point. So at that point, everybody buys into it, right? If you charge me $50 a month.
Exactly, and that point is discussed over and over in the white paper.
Yeah,
So
it is.
just as we do Section 8 housing, and we do negative income tax to a certain extent through child tax care credits and everything else. One way to do that is to set the price high enough to work, or it doesn't even have the price, because just as you're restricting it to residents of this area, that should be the first thing. I don't think it should really have a price. If you restrict it to residents of this area, then you see what happens next. And then next year, maybe you have a price, and that the price goes up and up, so do the subsidies for people that actually need their cars. Because we all know, I walk the streets, at least 40% of the cars in the CB12 do not move.
No, yeah,
They just go from one side of the street
it's
to
very,
the other.
it's very complicated also because of enforcement. In order for it to work properly, enforcement has to be on par. Because I did it extensively. So I used to be a huge point of public parking, because I used to spend after these meetings 2 hours looking for parking. Imagine getting out at 9:30, 10 o'clock to go home, look for parking at 12, get home and be up by 5 in the morning. It's training. So I did my research. I read the way Debbie had shared it with us a while ago, from the Expo president, and delving deeper into it, it gets a little complicated. City council would have to get certain things by DOT, which is another headache, would have to really bust their balls and work towards bringing certain, there's a lot that goes into it. I don't disagree that maybe we should engage a conversation with DOT and the council member's office to see where their stance on it. Obviously, we want to support our community. If it's right for our community, we're here to back it up. It's going to be an extensive conversation. It sounds great, but reality is.
Absolutely. And another red flag is that Chicago, because I'm reading this book, Movement, about parking and moving in New York City. This program would be right for the enforcement to be subcontracted out, because it could become very lucrative on its own. And I think that would be a disaster. Because you can just play that mental streak out in your head. So it would have to be some way that the city would be breaking even on an enforcement, so they'd be willing to spend the extra $2 or $3 million in just this community board, whatever it takes. It would take some full-time people enforcing it around the clock. But if that system breaks even, then the program would be more viable. So, but subcontracting it out, and that doesn't really work in New York.
Go ahead, Alana.
I agree very much with what Leo said, that
the upshot of Gail's white paper, which was a case study review of about half a dozen different cities, was that in order for the program to be effective, you have to charge enough to free up parking spaces. And that optimal number is about 15%. Now, that means that you need to charge something that's on par with what the parking garages already are. If you do not free up that amount of space, then the health benefits of having permanent parking, which is to say there's no more vultures idling, like driving around in circles like wasted vehicle miles traveled, you don't get that piece of it. So there's no point in putting it there. It's better for the cars to be stationary in the street. Everybody knows there's no place to park. It is to have like cars milling around. Can't. Who gets issued, the other big issue there is it a system?
Well, let me respond to the first one. So
We'll have
everything you
about
said
2 more
is
minutes.
everything you said is
We need to
accurate,
advance. We have one
but
more.
those programs are
resolution
designed
speaker.
to create a surplus of parking.
But
And
that's
I
the
think,
point. The
no, but I
surplus
don't,
of
but I think
parking
that's,
is the point.
no, I don't think that is the
But it
point.
is the point.
No, but.
Literally to.
Okay, but that was their point, but that's not my point.
No, going back and forth.
My point is to redistribute parking spots from non-residents to residents. I'm not gonna try to create something that can't be done, because I'm strictly looking to redistribute what we have, it becomes less onerous.
Fred, I think, thank you for bringing it up again. We
Thank you
have
for
had
giving
this
me the time,
conversation.
and thank you.
We'll reach out
I
to,
understand the argument.
we'll reach out to Councilmember De La Rosa's office and see if she still has any stands. And Jamila is still on. Jamila, do you know anything about it, where she stands with, residential parking? We'll also reach out to DOT. I know when I spoke to Lyle last, said honestly, we're not touching it. So we'll see what's going on the back end. It gets really hard because some people are proponents of it. I've spoken to some people in this area, they're like, yes, we need it. It saves me from having to go hours looking for parking. And other people who don't make as much money, who have a car for necessity, because some people drive, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have a lot of money. It just means that they bought a very cheap car, very old, and they needed to get around, whether it's Uber, whether they did it to delivery cabs, or whatever it is. So some people do need it, but they say they just won't be able to afford it. So what happens to those people? There's a lot that we have to discuss. Jamila just raised her hand. Jamila, go ahead.
I can't share too much information because it's still being discussed. However, there is like an LS request regarding residential parking, and it has been in some articles, and we have written op-eds. The council member has written op-eds about the topic. But it hasn't moved forward in any committees at the city council just yet. So obviously now with congestion pricing, that is something that needs to be discussed to see if any modifications need to be done to the legislation. But at the same time, we might have to see how does congestion pricing affect our community and modify it to that. What I do understand is that obviously if the legislation does not pass, then DOT will not do a pilot program. We obviously will have to make it into a law so that they can follow them. But so far, nothing has moved since for the last few months.
Thank you. All right. So again, thank you, Fred.
You're on mute, by the way.
So Felipe, I just promoted you a panelist. Felipe is from CB9. Thank you for joining us, Felipe. Felipe reached out to me on behalf of Daniel Bonilla, who referred him to me, and he had an ask. So his committee, CB9, they're asking DOT to consider installing protected bike lanes on West 155th Street from Edgecombe to Broadway. A lot of people use the bridge coming off, and they have no path to go. It's like a little bit of an uphill, then it goes downhill, then it goes into oncoming traffic, and it's a little craziness. And I don't think it's a bad idea. We have a lot of people that ride bike in our community, and one thing we want to make sure is that they have connections along our district and our area. So Felipe, if you want to just give more of a background to it, and then their ask is for us to support it on our end, so that when they go to DOT, they say, well, CB12, who borders us, also supports us with this. Can you guys consider this? So Felipe will give a quick synopsis, a quick breakdown, 2 minutes, and then we'll discuss. Felipe, again, thank you for joining us.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Leo. Thanks so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I'll try to be as brief as I can. I had a PowerPoint ready, but I think that's going to be too long. It's essentially, I'll just show one slide here.
And I'm sorry,
that-
Felipe,
yeah.
if you could show some of that PowerPoint,
Introduce.
show it to the.
No, I can,
Yeah.
well, you can send it to you, but I'll give him ability to share.
There you go. We'll share it. We'll try to keep the presentation to 10 minute max between all of us, so we can move
Can
on.
you- Yeah, can you see? Can you see?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay. So let me introduce myself real quick. Felipe Castillo. I live in CB9. I serve on CB9 on the Uniform Service and Transportation Committee. I just joined. I'm trying to start promoting protected bike lanes in CB9, and there are basically none except for the Henry Hudson Greenway in CB9. But there is one place between CB9 and CB12 on West 155th Street, which I think is a pretty big gap between Broadway and Edgecombe Avenue, where I started a resolution that it looks like it's going to pass a UST at least, and wanted to get support from CB12. And I think it's also my personal opinion that being good neighbors with neighboring community boards is a good idea. I work in CB12. I run in CB12 on Monday nights. So I do recreation and work. And I also lived in the past in CB12. So anyway, I just want to, be a good neighbor and come over to you guys, introduce myself, let you know what we're doing in CB9. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing in CB12. So anyway, that's the short intro. Basically, this is a very short protected bike lane. It's only 1,600 feet. Goes from basically Broadway to Edgecombe, and where it would connect to existing protected bike lane that goes down to the Harlem River Drive. And then hopefully, I know you guys talk about this bike lane on, I don't know if you can see my cursor or not, but on West 158th Street, that would be nice to connect to the Hudson River Greenway as well. So these are two greenways we could connect. Big gap. We know that protected bike lanes are safe. And they increase the safety for all road users. And West 155th is very wide. It's 60 feet wide. This is the current existing, but proposed treatment could be something like this, where you have bus lanes and bike lanes, or you could have something else. I'm not married to anything. I'm just saying that that's what we could do. There are crashes on this strip. There was recently one fatality on West 155th and St. Nicholas Avenue. So I think it's an important place to pay attention to. Traffic volumes are very low on this wide street. There aren't that many residences. The types of use of buildings in the area. There's a public school here on the north side. There's of course, Trinity Cemetery. And these are photos that I've taken throughout the day, throughout the days this fall, and very low traffic volumes. That's anecdotal. These are anecdotal, but obviously the New York State DOT actually keeps track of the number of motor vehicles going through, and it's like 10,000 AADT, which one lane road would support in each way. So ideally, I think the travel lanes could be repurposed. There's not that many cars in the area, according to the amount of cars that are registered in zip codes in the area. So I think that this is something that could be repurposed. The number of city bikes, for example, and private bicycles are increasing. There are city bike stations along the corridor. They are being used. This is open data. Like there's 3,276 uses per month. And then obviously CB12 is a very important stakeholder. You all have passed a resolution, and you talked about it earlier in your meeting about that area, West 158th, West Edward Morgan Place. It's not super orderly, could be better. And yeah, we're just trying to identify stakeholders and what can we do. Writing to DOT, and the PBLs or protected bike lanes are not only are they much needed, but they're also part of the city's street plan. It's actually something that city council passed and the mayor signed. So anyway, taking it to the community boards. I'm on a community board on CB9. I'm obviously talking to you, and just wanted to get your support. So yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Felipe. So we have some comments and questions from the
Yeah, I
committee.
see some hands up. Yeah.
Bruce,
Start with Bruce, 'cause you live near.
yeah, we'll go cloud, Bruce.
Very interesting, Felipe, thank you. So why not extend down 155 to Riverside to the Greenway via the Denny Farrell Bridge? Because we want to get, me personally, I'm talking for myself, this is not a committee thing, but I think the bike lane on 158 is causing more problems than it's worth, and we need that space. So if you move the bike lane on 158 over to 155, now granted it's a cobblestone road, that was the problem when we looked at this 5 years ago. And that's why they stuck it on 158, but somehow they all can connect and work together by eliminating 158 and extending your proposal across Broadway down to Riverside Drive West, and then you make a left and go down to the Greenway.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Yeah.
And also, Bruce, sorry, it also reinforces the resolution that both you and Jim put together, because we really felt that's a major thoroughfare, that 158th Street,
Yeah.
and it's already very congested.
I mean, the catch is that, like, I live on the corner of 158 and Riverside, and a lot of bikes come up the Farrell Bridge and they come up Riverside and they make a right-hand turn on 155, and then they go around to 158 and they go up her block, up the hill, because I don't know where they're going.
To the George Washington Bridge.
Huh?
I think to the.
They're going to the
Yeah,
George
but you can
Washington.
get to the George Washington Bridge, just staying on the Greenway and going past the bridge and going across the bridge to on 181. So I'm always curious what I see these groups of 5-10 bikers coming up through our neighborhood on the weekends, like, where are they going? You know,
Right.
so maybe we should work together more on this whole thing, because it all fits together eventually, hopefully.
So Felipe, I mean,
Huh?
I
You
guess.
go to Bear Mountain.
Where do they go?
Bear Mountain.
Bear Mountain,
Yeah.
not that way.
No, they go
Yeah.
to George Washington, go to Bear Mountain.
Yeah,
Not
but you can
Dublin.
get to the George Washington Bridge along the Greenway, along Riverside Park. Fort Washington Park takes you up there.
Well, the people come from downtown, they come, or they go.
They don't know where they're going. They need a map. Anyway, that's
All right, Felipe, I have one question from Jim Berlin. Jim,
But
Yeah.
a comment.
155th Street is the boundary between our two districts.
right.
Correct.
Technically, if the bike lane, which according to the picture I looked at, is at the southern end of the street, the southern side of the street, that's in your district. Now, what I suggest we do sort of administratively is that you pass this resolution in your board, asking for this, and it sounds like, for, you know, based on your logic, you know, the bike lane is better suited for the south side of the streets. Once you pass that resolution, you let us know, and we will pass a resolution that we have no objection to what you're doing on 155th Street, because obviously it's gonna be two-way bike lane, and we don't need anything on the north side where we live, but we will support you. But I think essentially this resolution is for, you know, for your community board to put forward, and then we have no problem supporting this.
Okay, sure, Jim. I hear you on that. But you know, DOT might say, oh, let's do one. You know, let's do the south, on the south side going west, and then the north side going east, or the opposite. So you know, like that, I want to jump. I want to preempt that. You know.
What we might want to do in that case is coordinate resolutions. Maybe you and Leo or someone can get together, and we'll have this resolution that we want protected bike lanes. You know, each of us will pass separate resolutions that sort of go hand in hand. You know, either 2 lanes in the north to south, or 1 lane on the north and 1 lane on the south.
Exactly.
And we're in favor of all of it. Now.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Right, now, our resolution, would also possibly reach out and tell them, this is a good way of getting rid of a bike lane on 158th Street, which is problematic. But, so I think that's the way we should proceed, and it sounds like you agree.
So in essence, have them, that's a resolution, we'll work to support.
Right, and then, you know, insofar as it's a, you know, we want, both community districts want bike lanes on both, on 155th Street. So we will support the general principle just like they will. And then DOT with this general support for protected bike lanes on 155th Street, they can do what they want.
They can figure out what's up.
Yeah.
But again, we should really coordinate. I mean, we don't need identical language, but I think your point, and then this happens more often than you'd expect. You know, community boards like working with their neighbors, but on the other hand, you're probably well aware that your charge as a member of Community Board 9 is to worry about what happens with Community Board 9 and not what happens up here. That's our thing. I mean, obviously, we're not going to war, but that's what parochial nature by community boards work. But again, I think we and you agree that there should be protected bike lanes on 55th Street and pass almost identical resolutions that would work very well.
Then they would have to remove one lane.
Sure. Hey, yeah, I'm not gonna comment on 158, so, but yeah, 155th, like 100%.
Of course. All right, so
I'd like to say that I take all the Hudson River Greenway was closed. I was commuting down the Harlem River Greenway, cutting across 155th and continuing down Hudson River Greenway, as you suggested. The cobblestone block for me, I liked it because guess who doesn't speed on cobblestone blocks?
I'm sorry.
Cars doesn't
yes,
use cobblestone blocks.
100%.
No problem with the cobblestone block is it is one way, so that you can only use it going up the hill, like I could only use it coming home, I couldn't use it going to work.
So what was happening was the bikes were going down the sidewalk. And the neighbors, mostly elderly, were getting nearly run down, which is why they moved it to 158.
I think that. what
That'd be nice.
I would like to see that be a safe place and that because it's in community board 12, we have even more reason to have bike lanes.
Yeah.
It's us that have the Harlem River Drive. And right now, the Harlem River Drive dumps you out with no other safe bike lane. If we had a bike lane
So
on
this would be a
155th
one
Street, in the Harlem River Drive, would deliver
If-
you to another safe place.
That's what they're recommending, because that's what. They'll have other ways to-
I think
Sorry,
people-
just to,
People
Oh.
race, the reason that the cyclists, the pathlete types, they don't like going up and down topography. So I suspect that the reason they don't go down the Hudson River Greenway is they're too lazy to come back up the hill. That is my guess.
It's a steep hill.
Well,
Yes.
Carmen had a comment. Go ahead.
I was just having a side conversation with Leo and Felipe, and maybe you can just. I was trying to get some clarity on if the protected bike lanes were to be on this road on the south side. Are you saying that this would be converted to a one lane as opposed to two lanes? Or removing the parking spaces? Because this area, I actually happen to drive by here, and this in the morning gets really crowded going on if you're crossing to go onto the Bronx to get onto 278, or if you're just getting off the FDR. So that's a heavily trafficked area. So I'm just trying to get a little bit more clarity on what
I
you're.
mean, I hear you. That's not what the traffic data shows. I mean, there might be like individual spikes here and there, but it's a very short, it's very short road. The area that I'm talking about is 1,600 feet from Broadway to Edgecombe. And I think it would either be it's a wide road, so 60 feet across, and right now it's 2 parking lanes and 4 travel lanes. So, however the space can be reallocated, I'm really agnostic to that. If it, I think that's for DOT to sort of, they're the experts, they can advise. So, but I think that the safety of all road users is paramount here.
DOT would have to start the design like they did when they came, they wanted to install the bike path. Protect the bike lane on Dykeman. So they will come with the design and then we'll discuss it in the committee. Felipe, I think the only, after you guys pass your resolution, we'll work on passing our ends, I guess for next month we'll pass it. But we would, guess, I don't know how that works, Jim might be able to clarify. Want to add a friendly amendment to your resolution, and I guess you can, from CB12, is to extend instead of to Broadway to Riverside Drive, right? On 151st Street, that's,
Jim
It's a
said
friendly
you should
amendment.
write your own resolution.
But we'll write our own resolution in support of their resolution, once they pass their resolution.
He said they should be co-in.
Once together.
Oh, he changed his mind, so they should be coincidental.
Exactly.
Okay, so then
We can figure out the mechanics.
we'll figure out the
Can you share
mechanics.
those slides with you? Can you share?
Yeah, Felipe, if you can also send me those slides so I can.
100%. Yeah.
How many we, Jim, actually? How would that work? Because their resolution says.
It's a
From
different-
Edgecombe to Broadway,
Yeah,
and we're technically
It's
asking, we're
Broadway
supporting,
to
but
Riverside.
we want Broadway to go.
Riverside Drive West.
Yes, so would you guys be open, Felipe, to changing your resolution to include Riverside Drive West instead of Broadway?
No, I don't think they want to do that. That's our territory.
Yeah, that's our territory, yeah.
That's what.
I
Jim
yeah,
was-
I think that's where, yeah, I think that's where we don't want to step on your toes. But as you know, I also don't want this area to be forgotten about because it's neither CB9 nor CB12. So that's another thing that, often boundaries in either whether cities or countries or whatever, like the boundary areas are often pretty ignored, and people still live in those places. So.
Well, it's a shame, there's a slope down the side of the cemetery, but it comes to a step.
Yeah, it's some sort of tunnel. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody would be using that, to be honest.
Bike
but-
down there, you can walk down it, that's the problem.
Jim, so for clarity. Should we wait till they pass the resolution and then we pass it next month for support? Or should we draft our own resolution with similar language?
Well, no, I think that one of two things, we either work together to draft these hand-in-hand resolutions, or they do theirs first, because I think they already have a plan.
That's what I'm saying, we don't
And then
necessarily,
we'll jump on it afterwards.
I think that's more of a. I think that's more problem on our end,
We don't want to slow them down.
because we don't want to slow them down.
Exactly, so they can pass their thing, the next month we will pass ours, and the other thing is that I think this is the perfect counterexample of what you were just talking about. Because we're gonna share this street and work cooperatively to make it work properly.
And now, their resolution says West 155th Street from Edgecombe to Broadway. Ours will say from Edgecombe to Riverside Drive West.
No, from Broadway's website.
From Broadway, yeah, we extend, so we'll extend from that.
Yeah.
Which is what we wanted years ago.
Yeah,
Okay, and insofar as it's a boundary, they can extend along their side of the street. So what, that we should agree on where we want it to go.
You said the south side.
Well, he
Well,
said-
that's what, yeah, but that's it, these are non-binding resolutions. This is just a request.
Right, so you have more latitude, don't you, where?
and that's another thing, because of that and other instances, DOT determines that. We can say,
Yeah.
hey, put it on the south and then you can tell us, no, this is the reality, you can put it on this side.
Okay.
So I guess, does your resolution? No, it doesn't. It just says the locations, all right. All right, so we'll do that. Felipe, we'll continue our conversation. Please send the presentation so I can show it to the rest of the committee. Once you guys pass it at the board, let us know, we'll add on to it, in support. I think we're all on the same page, and I know that Jody, Bruce, Jim. No, James Bond is around me. You guys are the ones in that area. I think you guys,
We're downtown Washington.
yeah, you're downtown. Washington. You guys are-
Washington Heights, the other James.
You guys are uptown.
Yeah, he's in over with it. All right, Felipe, so does that work? We're good?
Sounds great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. See you around.
Yeah. Motion,
Go home
anybody?
now.
Yes.